My wife and the mother of our 3 kids is cheating on me and she thinks I don't know. What should I do now? Original post. I don't even know how to start all of this. I feel like I will faint. I have been married to my wife for 9 years, together 11. We are both from Europe, but not from the same country and currently live in Asia. We have lived in Asia for the last 10 years but in this country we are living for the last 8. We have 3 kids. M8, M6, F3. My wife has not worked since our first son was born. I have permanent residence in the country where we live and she and my kids are allowed by the law to stay with me even though they are not citizens and she is not working. Marriage is in my eyes pretty good. We had some fights in these 9 years but nothing special. I work 5 days per week from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. She never told me she feels lonely, or not loved or bored. She has her routine. Oldest son goes to school, my younger son goes to preschool and my daughter goes to kindergarten. She drives them every day to school and picks them after. Makes lunch and waits for me. We would go on vacations, trips, holidays. Dates every weekend. I have never ever thought she is doing something behind my back. We also have an open phone policy but I don't remember when I checked her phone before all of this. I don't think I've used it 5 times in my life. This Wednesday I came to our house and parked the car outside. I don't think she heard me. But I heard her talking with someone about how she misses that person and can't wait to see it this week. I don't know if she heard me or saw my car but literally 5 seconds after she said that she hung up the call. I asked her who that was and she said it's one of her friends who is currently on the trip. To be fair, I didn't suspect it was AP. I know, I am an idiot, but I couldn't imagine that. Also, that friend was really on the trip which I know. But the things were off. She was trying that day too much. She was always nice and was in a good mood but that day everything was a little bit too much. I had a really weird feeling but I said I will wait until the next day and I'm probably making things up in my head. I came to work on Thursday and was just asking myself am I paranoid or what? It bothered me why she ended the call immediately when I was in the house if that was her friend. During the day I called her and asked where she was. She said she was in the house but I heard noises around her. I seriously thought she was cheating on me. I left work and jumped in the car and went to my house. It's about a 30-minute drive. When I came she was not there. I called her again and wanted to ask her again where she was but didn't want to look suspicious so I asked her if she could look at some things in the house. And while she was on the call she was saying she is checking those things. I knew then that she was cheating. I came home and she was lovely as always. Wanted to go out with me and the kids later. I seriously don't know how I remained calm then and how I didn't kick her out immediately. And I pretended the rest of the day that I was just tired. Yesterday I told everything to my best friend. He was furious when I was waiting and that I should confront her right away. But I didn't have any evidence. I said I will look at her phone and laptop when she goes to sleep. When I came home she was behaving well. We even had sex. I think if I stay under the shower for 10 months it will not be enough. I wasn't in the mood and she asked me if everything was okay and I said it's just too much stress at work. She hugged me and went to sleep saying everything is okay. During the night I checked her phone. I don't know if she was that stupid or so sure I won't see messages but she didn't delete anything. They were hidden, but not deleted. I had about 30, 40 minutes to look because she woke up. AP is some kid. I mean, technically not a kid but he is younger than me. I would say 23, 27. I checked his IG and he is apparently some fuckboy. He follows 80% girls. Tattoos, jewelry, muscles, and he is white. So he is not a local guy. To be honest he is attractive. I can't lie, attractive enough for her to ruin marriage and family. By his name I would say he is from Europe also but I'm not sure. He seems to have a lot of cash. I don't know if he is some daddy's boy or what but I can see he has 2 supercars, travels the world and posts pictures from going to parties weekly. They were physical at least 4, 5 times. She sent him so many nudes almost all during the morning when she was alone and without kids near her. It seems this is going on for about a month. I have no idea how they meet. She was going out last month sometimes as she would say on girls' nights. And I never checked her. Probably then somewhere. She was initiating meetings and conversations almost every time. He either doesn't like her enough or acts like he doesn't care so I think she feels that and tries a lot. They had sex 2 times during the evening when she told me she was with her friend and the rest of the time in the morning at his place. When I was in the house 2 days before she wasn't with him but wanted to be but he said he was busy and she was already in the city. I said to myself I will not say anything to her. We woke up today. I wasn't working. She wanted to spend time with me but I was in my home office most of the day thinking how TF can this happen to me. I went out tonight for dinner with my best friend and showed him everything. To be honest, I have no idea what to do right now. I will definitely divorce her. OFC, I will contact a lawyer tomorrow. Now it is late night here, even though it's Sunday. My biggest problem is that we live in a foreign country. On a different continent. I have a feeling if we divorce she will go back to her country with kids. I can't allow that. House, both cars are all in my name and paid by me. We have a significant amount in the joint account. I have my own bank account where I have savings. She doesn't have her own account. I also have one house and one property in my country that my grandparents gave me during our marriage. It's in my name. Now what to do? I can't stand near her anymore. I want to confront her. Do I confront or talk with AP? Maybe he has a wife, doubt it. Do I kick her out of the house or do I leave? Obviously if we don't have kids everything would be easier, but I love my kids more than anything and I will fight for them staying here. I will also make a DNA test even though I'm pretty sure they are mine, but you never know. Good Lord, I can't believe what I'm writing. Anyway, any advice is more than welcomed. I only said this to my best friend. I am too embarrassed to say this to anyone else. I plan to confront her today, Sunday. Thank you. Update 1. Hi everyone. A lot of you asked me for the update. There is some very good and some not very good news. First of all, I want to clarify some things. I received many messages and comments about this. My wife is both from Europe, not from the same country. We are 11 years together, 9 years married. We met in my country. Then after a year of relationship I received a job offer in Asia. She went with me. But since we weren't married she couldn't get a proper visa. She didn't work at that time. She was flying out and flying back in the country and she was on a tourist visa. About a year after we moved to Asia we married there. And then a year after she married me, we moved to another country in Asia where we have lived for the last 8 years. So 10 years in total in Asia. I lived first 2 in one country where we had a wedding. Last 8 years in the country where we are currently. A lot of you asked me where exactly AP lives. I am not sure if AP lives here the whole year or not, but I think he does. It's a huge city and there are a lot of foreigners here and his apartment is in a downtown area where there are a lot of foreigners. Also a lot of you asked me to give her another chance and go on the MC because of kids. I respect your opinions and everyone is different. Someone can forgive a 10 years affair, someone can't forgive innocent texting with an unknown man. I don't forgive something like this. I don't know what needs to happen for me to consider R with her. If I was a bad husband, if I didn't take care of her, if our sex life was dead. If she ever told me she is not happy, I would at least understand why she did that. But it is quite the opposite. Sex life 4-5 times per week, she is always smiling and literally since I know her says she is happy. We always spend time together, she never avoids me or becomes angry at me. So yeah, my answer is no. Only if my kids beg me and suffer so much I might live with her for some time, but I will never ever touch her again. I called the lawyer here today. Told him I really want to meet him and I can pay more since it's a Sunday and I assume it's his free time. Lawyer was really nice on the phone and we met after lunch. I showed him and explained everything to him. The news are this, all the assets I have here are completely mine. She doesn't have any rights on that currently. She is on a spousal, family visa here, doesn't work, not a citizen, while I have permanent residency. Since everything has been paid by me and everything is on my name, I am the owner of everything. All the money in the bank is mine. He advised me to take all the money from the joint account and transfer it to another bank account where she doesn't have access. Joint account is in my name but she has credit debit cards and uses it daily for everything for the house/kids/her. So technically she doesn't have any right on that money. Cars are the same story because they are all in my name and paid for by me with clear evidence that I paid for it. The bad news are about the most important thing, kids. Since, I repeat again, she is on the spousal visa, if we divorce she can't stay here anymore. She needs to find a job or be on a tourist visa. She can't use tourist visas forever and sooner or later someone at the immigration will stop her and deny her entry. My kids can stay with me on the family visa. Things become very tough right here about divorce. Basically 4 countries are involved. 2 home countries, the country where we married each other and the country where we are now. If we divorce in Asia there are big chances I will be the primary custody parent. At worst we will share the custody. But if we divorce in Europe I am basically fucked. And most likely I will have to return if I want to be near my kids. He also told me about the idea that I offer her some assets or money to make a deal that kids stay in Asia with me, but I doubt she would accept that. If I kick her out of the house and the police get involved I won't have problems. Since I have proof I am the father, even if the police get involved kids will stay at my house. Passports are safe and she doesn't know where I hid them. Lawyer told me to make DNA tests for the kids and to not leave the house so my wife can stay with them. I will do DNA tests tomorrow. In the meantime, he will start making everything about the divorce. After we get results from the DNA test, she will be served. All in all, a very tough and complex situation, but I will fight. I also talked with a lawyer from my home country. He told me if my wife somehow takes the kids from me and goes back to Europe while we are still not divorced, I need to file the report with the police immediately in the country where we live and more importantly in my home country. Since both of our home countries are in the European Union, laws are very similar. If she does that, the police will be at her door very soon. So that's good. I didn't confront her. She was actually mad at me most of the day because I went out to meet the lawyer and I spent time in my home office, and according to her this is the day for us. I seriously don't know how I can contain myself to not tell her anything. She spent the last 2 days at home. Probably she waits tomorrow to call the AP. She behaves well. An hour later, she apologized to me for her being angry at me today and tried to kiss me. I am trying everything to avoid her as much as possible. Hopefully, I will go to bed when she is already asleep. Tomorrow I will make DNA tests for all the kids. Lawyer told me he will call me with all details for the best options for the divorce. I will ask for some free days at work and after that I will confront her in April. Lawyer told me to record everything he says. Thank you so much for your messages and comments. Your advice helped me a lot. Thank you once again. Update 2. First of all, I want to say something. I am reading all of your comments or most of them. What some of you can write is just pure craziness. Stop putting your own words and stories in my mouth. I have never ever said I want to see my wife out of the country where we live right now. If there is one person in the world that wants her to stay here, that's me then. Because that means my kids are staying. I will offer her the best deal that will allow her to stay here, but that deal includes divorce. If she rejects it, then we will fight for custody. I am not the one who should fight for her future. I didn't do shit to her. According to some of you, I should go back to Europe, in her country. I've been there 4 times in my life. I have to leave everything I have built in Asia so I could see my kids 3 days per week while I didn't do anything. She did. She cheated on me and I should destroy everything I have so she could be in the nice spot. Because I am the father and she is cheating the mother. Or even better, I should not divorce her so she can stay here because she was cheating and doesn't know how to keep her legs closed, and I need to suffer and never meet anyone else in my life. Brilliant logic. Maybe she can find the job here and stay in the country legally and with the kids that have everything. That's also not okay? Poor her, she needs to work. Some of you said she gave up on her career because of me and kids. Again, you're making stories without knowing anything. She didn't give up on anything. I was the one telling her if she wants to work, she finished only high school, she can and I will hire the nanny. But she didn't want to because she probably needed time for her AP. I am not forcing her out of the country. Immigration will force her if we divorce and she doesn't have a job. That's normal in every country. I am not above the law. She can find a job and stay with the kids because the best for kids is to stay here. She should do everything to be near kids. In the end, I love our kids more than she does because I didn't ruin our family, she did. Not to mention my kids don't know anyone in her country except her family. Don't speak her language and have friends and go to school, kindergarten here. Well, if you ever experience something like this in your life, you can use your logic. I will stick with mine. So to conclude this rant, I will offer her the deal with the kids staying here. She stays here but not with me. If she rejects it, we go to court and we will see what the judge will say. I also never said if we divorce she will not get anything. She will, but not as much as she would get in Europe, and I honestly don't care if I lose money, house or whatever if my kids stay here. I could transfer ownership of my house on my brother, cars, send all the money as a gift loan to him or to my parents like my lawyer told me to do if I want to keep everything after the divorce, because at this moment she is not entitled at anything before the divorce since she doesn't even have residency status here, let alone citizenship, and everything is in my name. So I can do that before I file for the divorce and she will get huge nothing here. But I am not doing that. I will earn that money back in a few years max, but my kids are forever. Now news and long updates. Yesterday I had long talks with my lawyer. He will make everything so we can divorce here where we live. It will be a tough process but we are ready. He also gave me the contact of the lawyer in the country where we married each other. That lawyer told me that according to everything I told him I'm in a great position. So I am literally building 2 cases if I need to. I need to divorce in Asia, not in Europe. If I divorce in the country where we live or where we married each other, there are huge chances kids will stay with me. EU courts have 0 rights or jurisdiction here, so if she ever thinks to send kids in Europe with her, she can only dream. The court, according to my lawyers, would keep kids here because 2 of 3 my kids are already in the school. Spent whole life here, I am working. She doesn't. I have house, financial power for their good life and residency status. My wife could ask for the appeal in her own country where she would have bigger chances, but that process could go for years and I can delay it also in the multiple ways, and my kids would not be allowed to leave the country where we are without me allowing that. So that's great. I sent all the details about the house, cars and bank accounts to my lawyer and he is building the case. Also, I agreed with him that we make a deal for her. She can keep the house and car, but I will be the primary custody parent. Or I keep the house and I will pay for the place where she can live and we share the custody. Anything else I don't accept. When I came back home from work, she was waiting for me with the kids. Again, she looked good. We went out as a family during the evening. I had a great time with the kids. I couldn't stand her. When we came home, she tried to initiate sex, but I politely refused. She was laughing while talking about some nice moments in our past most of the night in bed, so I had to ask myself if she was completely out of her mind. Today she drove our kids to school and kindergarten before I left the house. I took all the papers I needed, suit, some clothes and left. I decided yesterday that I will not confront her directly because of the kids. They are always near us and I don't want them to have trauma because of this. While I was at work, she was texting me about plans for us tonight. I was acting like everything was fine because I thought she might come to my work if I confronted her already, and that would cause me huge problems at my work. When she texted me at 3 p.m. that the kids are home and that they are all eating, I knew that's the moment. I finished the job shortly after. I left her some money on the joint, mine, but she has access account and took everything else to my other bank account. I sent her the text at 4:05 p.m. The funniest thing, with all the evidence I have, I still can't believe this is the reality. 11 years. I want to tell you so many things right now, but I am so disgusted by you that I just want this to end as soon as possible. You made your choice, now I am making mine. You can stay tonight. Tomorrow, after the kids leave for school, I want you to see out of my house. Don't try to do something stupid with the kids, you will just have bigger problems. I am ready for every scenario. My lawyers are ready. Be normal and we can end this in the most normal way, everything else will just put you in the worst position possible. In the end, I can't say I want you all the best. But if your best is away from me, then I want you all the best. Don't call me, and I repeat, don't do something stupid because I will not tolerate that. My lawyer will contact you about the kids immediately when you leave my house. You can meet and be with them every day, but you are not allowed to enter my property after everything you did. P.S. You look good in those nudes pictures you sent to AP. She was online when I sent her the message but didn't respond or call for the next 20 minutes. I wish I could see her face during those 20 minutes. During those 20 minutes I called the AP. He rejected the call and sent the message asking who it was. I called again and he answered. I told him that I will not do anything to him. I just want normal talk, and if he has any human decency he will meet with me wherever and whenever he wants. Whole day I thought he would reject the possible meeting, but he apologized to me and asked me where I was. I explained to him, he told me where he was, and we decided to meet at 5:30 p.m. in a bar near his flat. When my wife started to call me, I put the phone in airplane mode. AP was waiting for me. I saw that he was looking at me from 10 m away at least. I was audio recording the meeting. OFC, he knew how I look. I mean, my wife has pictures with me on her IG and us as a profile picture on WhatsApp and Line. What a lovely wife. He immediately asked me if he said everything, and after that I could ask him whatever I wanted. I told him he can, but after he says everything about him. He's 26 years old, he is from one country in Europe as I assumed. He doesn't have any GF or wife, no kids. He lives here the whole year and just enjoys his life. He looks good. He is an attractive young guy and seems like someone who only wants to bang girls. Then he started to talk about how he met my wife. They were in one restaurant club in the early August. He was with friends, she was with friends. I knew about this because she asked me if she would go out with her friends. After some time they all started to sit together. They talked a little bit, he told his IG when some of wife's friends asked. He says she wasn't flirty that day. He saw her ring and assumed she was married and didn't want anything. He showed me messages with her from other apps that I didn't know to see. She started to talk a little, and after that they talked more and more. She said she loves me but that I have cheated on her. I've never looked, let alone touched another woman since I met her. Before a month, and that is her revenge. When I saw that I wanted to vomit. She was saying this before or after the first time they were physical. He told me they had sex 4 times, 1 round. Whenever they would meet she would be nervous after the sex and would always say this is wrong, and she would leave shortly after. He was confused with her behavior and even texted her to not meet anymore. According to him, she cried last time and said this is over and that she made the worst mistakes in her life. She loves me, and even though I cheated on her. This is not okay. She wrote to him that she liked the attention and that he picked her even though she is 9 years older before some single friends of her, but that she doesn't have any emotional love for him, but she has for me. Lucky me. Last Thursday, when I came into the house in the middle of the work to catch her and found the empty house and caught her lying to me, she called him to meet. This guy actually told me with a straight face that he wanted to have sex with her that day. I mean, he has balls. He was busy somewhere and she was waiting for him in the lobby of the building where he lives. He thought she came because of sex, but according to him, she rejected him and told him they were done. She told him to not call her anymore and that she will never stop regretting everything that she did. She also asked him to not say a thing to anyone. He showed me messages after the meeting where she said almost the same thing because he was confused, so he asked her again if she's sure. She blocked him after that on everything and never called again. Probably she deleted all these messages because I didn't see those messages on her phone. Did she forget to delete those hidden messages I actually saw? I have no idea. I don't know if he is lying, but I don't think he does. He doesn't have any reason to defend her because he actually said a lot of bad things about her and gave me every evidence I needed. He showed me literally every message. He said about every disgusting detail. He even told me one of my wife's friends knew about them. So he told me basically more than I wanted. While we were talking, my wife called him. He showed me and asked me if I wanted him to answer. I told him to not answer. She started to send him messages and voice messages. Some of the quoted messages are voice messages where she screamed like a lunatic. Her, where is he? Why did you tell him? I hate it, you destroyed my life, where is he? Him, what are you talking about? Why are you attacking me when you lied to me and him? Her, how does he know? He left me. You destroyed me. I told you we are over, why did you do this? Where is he? I am trying to find him. Him. I didn't tell him anything. I didn't do anything. You are married. Her, I made mistakes, but I don't love you. I love my husband. I don't love you. I never loved anyone except him. I made the worst mistake in my life. I never liked you except for fun. I wish I never met you. Him, I really don't care who you love, but why did you lie to me? Her, I didn't lie about anything. I really love my husband and he left me now. I don't want to live, he left me. Him, I am not talking about that. You lied, he cheated on you and that's why you are doing this. How many guys have you been behind his back saying the same thing you told me? Her, with 0, you are the first and last and I can't believe I did this. You told him and destroyed me because I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Him, I don't give a damn what you want or not. I didn't tell him anything. Answer my question. Her, you told him, you're a horrible human being. Him, answer the question. Her, what question? Him, why did you lie he cheated on you? Her, because I am an idiot and liked the attention and lost control and now I lost everything. How does he know about this if you didn't tell him? Him, I didn't say anything and I need to go. Her, how do you know I lied about him if you didn't talk? I know you told him everything. I hate you, you destroyed me. Him, again, I didn't tell him anything but I hope he will not forgive you. She blocked him after this. I was just looking at him for 2 minutes without saying anything. I was close to starting to cry. He was apologizing like crazy and said if he knew that she is happily married he wouldn't do anything. He says I don't need to believe him, but that's the truth. He told me he doesn't want anything with her and never planned. Also, he sent me SS of all their messages immediately so I can have it during the divorce process. He asked me what I want to do with her in the marriage. I told him everything and he wished me and my kids best of luck and asked me if she called him or sent him any message. Do I want him to tell me? I said I wanted to. He told me if I need anything I can call him. We even shook hands. If someone told me before a week that I will DNA test my 3 kids and shake hands with my wife's lover, I would think I am high, but this is my life. In the end, it's not his fault. I didn't marry him. I sent the audio recording of the meeting and SS of their messages to my lawyer, and talked with him a little bit. He told me with everything AP said and messages that he sent me, it would increase even more my chances during the divorce. Now, I am in the hotel. I didn't block my wife. She sent me a billion messages and called me at least 100 times. Even my friends called me asking where I was because my wife told them we had a huge fight and I left the house. In the morning when my kids leave for school kindergarten I will confront her eyes and eyes, and then in the afternoon I will DNA test kids. I took some free days from work this week so I have time. That's it. I know some of you will tell me I shouldn't do this and that, but I'm trying my best. It's much easier to give advice from the phone than actually living this shit and going through a roller coaster of emotions. This is by far my worst period in my life, and I have been through some really shitty situations during my life. I don't know if I will update, probably I will put in another sub or at my profile, but if I don't, just be smarter than I was. Thank you all and take care. Update 3, I will post here because I don't have time to deal with the trolls. Hey guys, a lot of you asked me for the update. I am really busy these days, but a lot of things have happened, so let me share because strangely enough I find writing about this very therapeutic. Okay, so my last update was when I was at the hotel. During that night my wife's best friend called me and said she will be near her with the kids. Me and her have a great relationship and she is in my eyes by far her best friend. She called me on Wednesday early in the morning that she is driving my kids for the school because my wife can't stop crying. I jumped in the car, picked my friend, Witness, and we came to my house. Honestly, I can say it was much easier than I expected to kick her out. Yeah, it wasn't the fastest process, 2 HRs, but at the end she left without police being involved. She cried, begged for forgiveness, she would explain everything to me, everything. She screamed, begged again, didn't listen to her friend, my lawyer. I even told her if she doesn't leave I will call the police and do everything in my power to deport her. Again, she didn't want to leave. She just wanted to talk with me. Then I just said to myself that I will lie to her. I told her to leave if she loves me so I can have space and that I will call her today when I think a little bit about everything. I just wanted her to see out of my property. She left with some clothes shortly after. Since then she has lived with her best friend. During the day I did most of the things I needed. Changed the locks at the house and at the gates of the property. Cut her off from everything that is on my name and she uses. I hired the babysitter Melody. On Monday I talked with my coworker, female. She also has younger kids and she recommended me to Melody. Melody doesn't work for her anymore because my coworker's husband is now working from home so they don't need her anymore. Melody is really nice. She is also from Asia, speaks great English and local language. She drives, cooks, cleans, CV is good, no criminal record, so I agreed that she works for me. I also tested my kids and myself for STDs. My kids asked me after school where my wife is. I told them we will be separated for now. They had some questions. I told them if they wanted to talk or see her just let me know. Both of my sons said it's okay and that was that. They met Melody and they looked normal around her. My wife called me the whole day and again sent so many messages. Then on Thursday I had another chaos with her. I drove my kids to school and my daughter to kindergarten. I came back home. I was doing some things on the PC, Melody was doing chores, and then I had a call from the school where both of my sons go. The principal called me and said my wife wanted to see my older son during the class and that security stopped her. She made the scene and said to her that she didn't see her kids for 2 days. Again, I jumped immediately in the car. I needed at least 30 minutes to get there. During those 30 minutes the principal called me again and said she talked with my wife again and that she and a psychologist in the school contacted Child Protective Service, CPS, because apparently that's the law where we live. It's not, in these situations. When I came to the school my wife again wanted me to talk to her. Begged, cried, same all. All of that in front of people from the school. They explained to me that my wife told them she didn't see kids for 2 days and is scared. Then one woman arrived from the CPS. She started to attack me immediately. How can I just steal kids from their mom? I was shocked. She was accusing me like I am some kind of drug dealer. To be honest, my wife did defend me in front of them. She said I didn't steal kids and I didn't forbid her to do anything, but she wanted to see them now because I kicked her out of the house. She just wants to come back in the house, will do anything blah blah blah. When she said that woman from the CPS and the principal attacked me again. They even suggested my wife to call the police because they assumed I kicked her out without anything and that I was aggressive. When I heard that I had enough. I called the lawyer immediately. He was busy but told me he will come and not speak with them. I was waiting for him and didn't say a word. My wife explained to everyone what happened in our lives. She was more or less honest and again she said she will do this and that, I need to forgive her, she loves me, blah blah blah. While she was saying that literally everyone gave her support. I was just speechless. Then when she tried to hug me or kiss I pushed her away and this woman from the CPS said that I have clear signs of an abuser. I was so close to saying a lot of things but again I didn't say anything. My wife told her that's not true and that I have never ever raised my voice let alone hand it to her and it's her fault but she loves me and can't live without me. Before my lawyer came, another woman from CPS arrived and she was the same as the first one. I am the worst, I am horrible, My wife is sweet and innocent. Whatever. My lawyer came and he was furious with them. He showed all the details about me. About my wife. Mostly immigration details. He said she doesn't work, doesn't have a place to live, might be deported and is mentally unstable and is not the right person to be around my kids. He told them about some articles in the law that they can't do this and that this is against the law. While he was speaking, my wife realized he is my divorce lawyer and started to attack him on how he can be so cruel and without heart. The principal told her and me to leave the office while they were talking inside. We were in the hallway. Again she cries, tries to talk with me. I was just looking at the security guy who was 100% laughing inside himself with what kind of lunatic I needed to deal with. The principal left the office and went to bring my kids. My older son asked me what was going on. I just told him to answer what they asked him and that's it. After maybe 3 minutes, the principal called us to come into the office. That first cow from the CPS said the kids said everything and that they have the most important details. I asked them what details and she said both of my sons said they want to stay with me and that they enjoy being with me. They repeated the same in front of me and my wife. My wife for the 100th time started to cry again. My older son even moved a little bit so she couldn't hug him. They left after that. These women from CPS said me and my wife need to make a deal for the kids. I said we will after I solve everything that I need. And then she gave me a paper and told me to sign. It was in the local language, so I needed a little bit of time to read all of that, so my lawyer took that paper and told me to not sign. They wanted me to sign that so they have legal grounds to visit my home every week uninvited to see how I'm doing with the kids. My lawyer attacked them that they are doing this for their bonuses and that they don't have any legal right to ask me to sign this and that they can call whoever they want. They said they will contact their supervisors and that the police will probably contact me. I left immediately. No one contacted me still. My wife stormed after me and begged me again to talk. I just drove off. When my kids came home, I talked with them about everything what happened. They told me they heard my wife in the Tuesday when I sent her that message how she cries and begs me to listen to her, so they know it's her fault. Smart little kids. I drove them to football practice. My daughter was with Melody. She likes her a lot. My sons even helped Melody to clean after they ate and they wouldn't do that with my wife, so I think deep down they know they need to behave as best as possible and help me during this time. Again, my wife calls me 24/7. I think she should be in the Guinness World Records for the most calls made and messages sent. Today was a much better day. Everything in the school was good. My daughter stayed at home because they have a free day today. Melody is making her hair, they sing, they are a great duo for now. My wife's friend called me in the afternoon saying that my wife wants to see kids. I told her it's okay. They arrived and my wife immediately saw I changed the gates. My daughter was very happy to see her. Wife was crying when she saw her. She was waiting for my sons. And both of them told her they don't want to be with her now. I told them to talk a little bit with her because she was crying literally on the street, but they refused and went into their bedroom and later to play with their friends on the street. I told her to leave and she begged me again to give her a chance to tell me everything. I told her that she needs to wait to talk with me until I receive DNA tests. She put my daughter on the ground and just looked at me for 10 seconds completely frozen. Honestly, I thought at those moments kids are not mine. She was shocked and said kids are mine and she can't believe I'm saying this. I really think this was the moment when she finally realized what she did. She told me again that the kids are mine and she jumped in the car. I talked a little bit with her friend and I could see my wife was crying like crazy. They left after that. My wife's friend brought my daughter back. She said my wife locked herself in the bedroom. She called her parents to confess everything and she is in a state of shock that I've tested our kids. Kids are mine. She never looked at anyone during the marriage except AP. My wife told her friend that she can't believe what she did and that she knows now she lost everything when I did the DNA test because that's very extreme and she thinks I don't trust her anything. Her parents called me tonight. To say they are furious is understatement. Her mom begged me to not cut the contact between them and my kids. I said they can always call them and come here but that I will not allow my kids to leave Asia before we divorce. She is fine with that and thanked me. Her father told me she is not welcome anymore in their home. They are disgusted she could do something like this and he told her to not call them anymore. They are very conservative, 40 plus years in the marriage, so this was kinda expected. Her older brother told me the same. That he blocked her and that he is disgusted that she is his sister. They all gave me full support and told me to inform them about everything. They FaceTimed a little bit with my kids and they had a good time. That's about that. Hopefully the weekend will be much easier. I am very tired. Mentally but physically also. We are going to watch a football game with my friend's family and hopefully my wife will give me some peace. Since I told her about DNA tests, she didn't call me anymore, so that's at least something good. I am waiting for the DNA results. My younger son has 7th birthday next Saturday, so that will also be one huge pain in the ass to be around my wife, but it is what it is. Thank you for your advice and nice words. Update 4. Hello. Yes, I am the father. I mean, I knew 99% of the kids were mine, but you never know. In the end, I thought my wife was a loyal woman, but she isn't. I can say I can breathe with the full lungs finally. Now everything is easier. When I received the results today, I was so scared to read it. I needed to take 10 minutes before I actually saw the results. Damn, if someone told me this will be my life. But here we are. I started to work again today. Melody is taking care of everything. My friend and his wife are there to help her. She sent me pictures of my kids when she drove them from the school and when they were eating. She is really good and kids love her. Well, these last 5 days were really tough mentally, so let me start. Weekend, my wife didn't call me at all since I told her about DNA tests. She was still sending me messages but didn't call. Her friend told me she looks like shit and behaves like she has a mental breakdown. She would send me about 30 messages per day, before it was 150, 200 at least. Mostly were something like this. Good morning, have a great day, I am so sorry for everything, please call me if you have any desire. I am so proud of you how you are taking care of everything. I can't express how sorry I am for everything. I wish I never went out that night, I wish I told you immediately. She would sometimes change the words, but the context would be the same. And she would send me some pictures of us and kids from the past, from the vacations, us all being on the couch, in the restaurants, etc. I have to say that until yesterday she would just FaceTime with my daughter, sons still refuse, every day, but she didn't come to pick her up. IDKY, but as her friend says, she just doesn't seem normal right now. Well, my brother called me on the Saturday. I didn't tell him or anyone in my family what was going on. Whenever they would call to see my kids, me and my wife, I would have some excuse why my wife isn't near me. I knew she didn't tell them. Until she actually did. So my brother called me and he told me she confessed everything. He was shocked and couldn't believe it. He thought we were joking with him. Yes, people, with all the evidence still no one can believe. I think people would rather believe she became president of the USA than this. That's how shocking and how big betrayal this is. My brother's wife is very close to my wife. After she heard about all of this, she cut every contact with her. My brother did the same. At first I thought she did it because of me, to show me support, even though, as I said, they are really close. But no, she did it also because she is also disgusted by her and doesn't want to see a person like her around my brother, her husband. I actually laughed at this, but I appreciated the support. So my wife lost one of the last people she could call. My brother told me they will try to come to see me soon, so I'm glad. Then my parents called me. My wife also told them everything. My father supports every decision I make and he tells me just to do the best for me and the kids. On the other hand, my mother tells me I should forgive my wife because she is human and did the mistake. She is remorseful, ready to do anything, and one mistake should not be enough to forget on 11 years of love and 3 kids she gave me. I told her immediately that it wasn't one mistake, but 4 mistakes in 1 month duration. Her answer was, you should ask yourself why she does that. Was everything okay with you two? I hung up immediately. I love my mom. After kids, she is by far the most important person in my life and I would do everything for her. She saved my life when I was younger and had so many problems. If she wasn't my mother, I would be in the grave or on the street, and she is my guardian angel, but I just can't believe she could say something like that. Then my father attacked her. Why is she defending cheaters? My mother apologized immediately. She just thinks about what is best for my kids, and told me whatever I decide she also supports. I didn't have enough energy to talk anymore. Wife's parents and her brother still don't talk with her and actually told me that they will call her friend to tell her that they will send the remaining stuff she has in her own country to her and that she is not allowed to enter their house anymore. If we forget all of this, the weekend was actually really good. We went with my friend's family to watch a football game. Went shopping. The kids were laughing and smiling. That's what is most important. Now, another chaos with my wife. You remember how I told you she stopped calling me? It didn't last long. I need to add a little bit of context here. My first assistant at work for the last 15, 16 months is Sarah, 29. She is a great worker, professional, very smart and kind person. But she is also really attractive, and since she moved here and since she works with me, also single. I told my wife about her before she started to work with me. My previous assistant was a guy. She was okay with that, nothing special, until she saw how she looks and that she is single. Then she became cautious. Irony, huh? Sarah would sometimes send me messages during the night, 9 p.m., and always about work, but she would wish me good night, as my wife would say, in a weird way, and my wife would be very angry and insecure about that. Irony, huh? 2.0. Then she would sometimes come to my workplace with the kids without calling me. I didn't have any problem with that, since she would do this also before when I didn't work with Sarah, but now she was doing this firstly to see how me and Sarah would react. Anyway, with time her jealousy decreased because I assured her nothing was going on. But she was concerned about her intentions, and she would say she can see Sarah is eating me with the eyes, and my wife never liked her and was really cold whenever they two would be near each other. This Monday we had a really important event in our company. Sarah and I have always been in contact since I took days off from work. I told her it's about personal reasons and she wished me all the best. I didn't want to go to that event, but eventually they told me to come. I asked Sarah if she wanted me to pick her up. I know how this sounds, but I have my reasons why I asked her. Event was in the hall in the different part of the city, and I literally needed to drive near her apartment complex to come there. She doesn't drive. I never picked her up before because of my wife. She was working extra since I am at home, and she was doing basically my job for free and never said a thing. In the end, I don't need to explain anything to my wife. I can pick up 10000 girls now if I want. I picked her up, we talked, came to the event, we were on the same dinner table with 6 more people. I drove her back home, she wished me good night. I did the same and went home. Melody was there, I wished her good night. My kids were sleeping and I went into my bedroom. And then I went to see messages on WhatsApp. I turned off all notifications from Viber, Line, WhatsApp, Telegram, because my phone is melting when my wife starts with her calls and messages. And there I saw a lot of messages from my wife and her friend. I checked messages from her friend, and basically she told me my wife is going crazy and having a mental breakdown because someone told her that me and Sarah were really close and enjoying time together at that event. I asked her immediately who told her that, and she told me she can't tell me. My wife was saying how I changed her for younger. Irony, huh? 3.0. Smarter and more attractive model. How my kids were going to have young stepmom who will be with me the whole day because we work together and are very likely already together. I just started to laugh and said that I don't have time for this nonsense. If there is one thing that I really don't care about now and is not on my mind, then it is having any relationship with any woman now. Even if I did something and I didn't, I don't owe her shit. I was loyal more than 11 years to her, and to be honest, I had much more situations where girls were approaching me thinking I'm single than guys looking approaching her, and she fucked up, not me. I went under the shower and I was just asking myself who told her this. My wife is not close to anyone from my work. She doesn't talk with anyone. The only person that knows about my situation from work is my female coworker that recommended me Melody. She is really close to me and she had horrible things to say about my wife after I told her everything, and she didn't say anything to anyone 100%. I just said to myself, someone from work that doesn't like me sent her message, probably from the burner account, and that's it. I called Sarah and told her we need to see each other tomorrow. And yesterday we went for coffee and I told her everything about my wife. She was shocked that someone could say something like that. I told her everything because of a few reasons. I expected my wife to call her and have another lunatic episode. Luckily she didn't. I wouldn't lose my job at all if this is even true between us, but I don't want someone to tell complete lies about me. Also, why would anyone lie about her? She is sleeping with her boss and that's why she has a job. And also I didn't want to hear any rumor that my infidelity is the reason for my divorce and that possibly can ruin my chances during divorce process. She told me she will tell me if she hears anything, and today when I returned to the job everything was perfect. My wife started to call me again every 5 minutes. She constantly cries, begs for a new chance. She will do everything, whatever I want. She came yesterday to see kids. My sons were at football practice, but she took our daughter. When she brought our daughter back, she tried to ask me a few questions about Sarah, but I left immediately. I don't need to explain myself to her at all. But the thing I do notice about her is that she definitely lost some weight. Her friend tells me my wife refuses to eat, and bags under her eyes look like she is a crackhead. On Friday my younger son turned 7, but he will celebrate on Saturday with his friends and other kids in our house. My wife will be there, and her being around me for a few hours is one huge disaster in the making, but I will try to stay calm because of my kids. On Sunday I plan to confront her one-on-one about DNA results and offer her a deal about her future, so I will update after that probably. I promised myself this won't be long, but it is long. Sorry guys, apparently I am not capable of making a long story short. Thank you for your nice messages and comments like always, and take care. Update 5. Hi everyone. I said I will update after I speak with my wife on Sunday about everything, but I actually already did it or maybe did it. It will be a long post, so feel free to skip it. If no one reads it, I'm okay. I feel better when I write this because I'm feeling the worst ever, so at least I can vent here. On Thursday, my wife called me to ask if she could take our daughter for a sleepover. Our daughter doesn't go to the kindergarten on Fridays, so she is free. I told her she can. She came and again she tried a little talk with me, but I didn't want anything. She wanted to talk, but I told her to leave, but she asked me if she could talk a little bit with our younger son since he will turn 7 tomorrow. I called him and he came. He was standing away from her, but he was listening to her. She told him how she already bought him gifts and how much she loves him. Eventually she hugged him and kissed him, but he didn't respond. He literally didn't say a word and just left while she was standing there. My older son still refuses to see her, let alone talk with her. She left with our daughter and promised they will be back by 5 p.m. tomorrow. So in about 24 hours they will be together. She was sending me a lot of pictures of how they are making pancakes, sleeping together and playing together. And also sent me so many messages saying how she regrets this is not happening with all 5 of us right now. Yesterday, Friday, my son became a grown man. My older son congratulated him. He was really happy and in a good mood. I drove them to school and went to work. While I was working, my wife called me again asking if she could spend the afternoon and evening with our son and daughter. She assumed older son would refuse. Again, I said she can. She was texting me through the day that she planned everything and I know she was excited. They will go eat, then they will go to the amusement park, they will drive go-kart, then go on ice creams. I liked everything. To be honest, my younger son in my eyes suffers the most with this situation. While my daughter is very young and unaware of anything and sees her mother a lot, and my older son is very clear that he doesn't want to have contact with my wife, the younger son is very quiet and looks very confused. So I like the idea of them 3 spending time together. I specifically told her to not enter the house and wait for me because I need to talk with him first and I need to see his reaction. I don't want to force him on anything. She agreed and told me she will wait for me. I had to stay a little bit more at the workplace, and my friend and his wife were waiting for me in my house so they could go with me to buy everything I needed for the birthday. Food, drinks, cakes, gifts. I texted my wife and told her I left my workplace a little bit late and that there is big traffic in the city, so I will be late. She told me she is close to my house but she will wait for me. I called my friend and told him that my wife is coming. I also called Melody to prepare other clothes for my daughter and asked her what my sons are doing. Everything that happened after that I didn't see. Melody, a friend, and his wife told me this and I believe them 100%. My wife arrived with her friend and our daughter. Apparently my daughter invited her to the house to show her something, according to my wife's friend. My friend and his wife with my sons were inside of the house then. Melody was in the backyard and stopped her from entering the house. My wife started to fight with Melody. Who is she to forbid her to enter the house with her daughter? Friend's wife heard the noise and went out. Friend's wife and my wife were friends, but she doesn't talk with her anymore after I told her what happened. She told her to calm down and to respect my decision. Wife was much more calm and kind towards the friend's wife than she was with Melody. My daughter was then calling her again from the door to come and they again stopped her from entering the house. My wife's friend told her to wait for me in the street. And then my older son stormed out of the house. Started to yell at her that no one loves her, to get out of here, that we are happy without her and daddy is happy without you. And that everyone hates her. She started to cry and begged him to talk with her, but he was yelling like crazy at her. She left the gifts for my younger son and went with her friend in the car. Then my older son took those gifts and threw them on the street while they were in the car. My friend then put him in the house. According to my friend's wife, my wife left crying like crazy. I came home, didn't see my wife, and then they told me everything. I couldn't believe it. All my kids were always kind, nice, not spoiled and never rude. My older son was always a little bit more connected with me, but he never ever told anything rude to my wife before all of this, and he always loved her so much. So I told him to come into my room. I literally asked him if he was normal. He apologized to me and said he couldn't listen to her anymore. I told him he should never ever talk like that with his mother and that those gifts aren't for him and that he doesn't need to apologize to me but to his mother and brother. He started to cry saying I'm forcing him to call my wife and that he won't talk with her because he hates her. I was speechless. I know he needs therapy and I will solve that really soon. He apologized to his brother. Then I spoke with my younger son. I asked him if he wanted to see his mother on his birthday tomorrow and he said he doesn't. I asked him a few times if he was sure and he said he is. He also refused to see gifts from her and told me to give her back everything she bought. So I called my wife's friend to tell her about this. She told me my wife is having a panic attack and struggles to breathe. After 2 hours she called me saying that she needed to call 2 of her own friends because of my wife and that she is sleeping now after she took some pills. Today when I woke up I saw messages from my wife. She basically told me she doesn't want to live anymore. She can't live without us and she wants to leave and leave me and our 3 kids alone. I called her and told her that I will send her pictures and videos from the birthday but to not disturb me today and that I will talk with both sons after this. She thanked me and again she was saying how sorry she is. A lot of kids came on the birthday. Also friends from my older son and my daughter. So many parents. My friends with their kids. I was just looking at all those couples, how they are smiling and enjoying themselves while I'm trying to pretend everything is okay. What my life turned into. I really wanted to vomit then. I just wanted my birthday to finish as soon as possible. When Melody left as the last one and my kids were in the living room opening the gifts, I went in the garage and I called my wife. I told her to not interrupt me and to shut up. I was screaming, yelling, crying and sarcastically laughing for about 5 minutes. And I told her so many bad things. I didn't curse all the people in the world together as much as I did her. I told her the worst things. And I don't regret anything I said to her. She didn't interrupt me but I could hear her crying. When I finished with my part she just said, "I am so sorry, I will do anything," and kept crying. I wanted to break my phone at that moment. Just told her to fuck off and I ended the call. Now I am sitting in the dark bedroom and I'm writing this. I am just asking myself, what the fuck did I do to deserve this? Is this karma for my crazy behavior when I was younger? I guess I will never know. I was always a problematic kid. Good in school, horrible out of school. I was running from the house so I could be with my girlfriend. I was stealing money from the parents. My mom came up with the idea that I should start practicing taekwondo so I could release all my energy there. Boy, she was wrong. I started to fight every day and I ended up in the police. Then I went to college. I became friends with the wrong people. I would have exams at 9 a.m. and I would stay in the casino till 6 a.m. playing poker tournaments or blackjack, or I would just drink and go to the nightclubs with the friends and girls. Then I met my wife. She came to work in my country. Some guys had eyes on her, but she was shy and I was a complete mess, but for some reason she liked me. 3 months later she had to go back to her country but she decided to stay with me. She gave me almost all of her savings so I can pay my debts after about 5 months of relationship. I really thought she was insane for doing that. I still do, but she did change my life and I changed myself because of her. We left about 10 months later for Asia. I will never forget the first apartment where we lived. It was the biggest shithole I have ever lived or maybe even seen. I've no idea how we lived there for 8 months. But we were saving money and we were really happy. Now, I have a house, cars, money, and I'm not happy. I don't want to sound arrogant, but girls always says I'm good-looking guy, in the great shape. I am working out 3-4 times per week, I have great job, career, and I know I can find new GF wife easily, but I seriously think I will never ever marry again. I will never trust anyone 100%. I know this might be a temporary feeling and that life is full of challenges and I should be happy because my kids, parents, brother, SIL, nephews, friends are all healthy and love me, but I am really tired and empty. Sometimes I just want to give up, but then I remember I have 3 kids. Everyone around me expects me to be some kind of magician who is expected to do everything good for everyone around me. Everyone expects me to suffer in silence and to not say a shit what is going through my head. Do best for your kids. Take care of your wife. Maybe she will do something to herself. Do that, don't do that. Forgive her, go on MC. Don't forgive her, destroy her. Forgive her because of the kids and in some time you will love her again. Fuck her, don't forgive her, kids are better with you and without her. I am so tired, tomorrow is just a day for me and the kids. Thank you all. Update 6. Hey guys, a lot of you are messaging me. Everything is alright. Firstly, thank you for your concerns. To be honest with you, I don't know what to tell you. I guess everything is okay? Since I can't sleep, I decided to write this in this late hour. I am feeling much better than in Saturday. I haven't seen my wife since last Thursday. The last time my kids have seen her was on Friday when my son turned 7 and my older son kicked her out. She is still sending me messages and calling our daughter. Yesterday her friend brought me an envelope that my wife sent me. It was a 9-page letter plus 4 additional pages of her changes. She wrote a lot of that, so I will quote some of the parts. First 5 pages were basically just about our past, literally the timeline of our relationship. What we have been through, our best and worst moments, but how we always stuck together. Last 4 pages. I am embarrassed to say I'm sorry. I can't express how sorry I am. I understand it doesn't mean you too much, but I'm really sorry. I wish I could turn the time back. Seeing you and kids hurt really makes me want to die. I should be the person to help you, not to hurt you. I failed as a mother and wife. When D, older son, yelled at me, I really wished I was dead. What kind of mother does this to her kids? What kind of wife does this to her husband? I understand that you will never love me like you did. That you will not trust me like you did. When you told me you made DNA tests for all of our kids, my heart broke into pieces. That was the toughest moment in my life. That moment when you told me straight in the face that you don't believe me since we met each other and you will probably never believe me again. I need to live with that fact. I just want you to know that I love you. I know you don't think that, but I really love you. I would give my life now for you. I hope I can prove this somehow. I wish you could put my heart in some machine so you can get results to see that I love you. I always knew I love you more than anyone, but after everything I did, I know I love you even more than that. I understand how horrible this sounds, but this is the truth. I threw all of that for what? For a little bit of attention. I lied about you cheating on me so I can have excuses in mine and AP's eyes. Who does that? Only horrible and cruel people. I am really lost. But you are not. I wish I could tell you to be with some girl so we can be one. One, but the truth is we can never be one. One. Whatever you do will not be the same as what I did. Also, I can't imagine seeing you with another woman. I know this is again selfish, but I do love you and I can't accept that, and I hate myself that you don't believe me. I hate myself for whatever I say or do, you just ignore me and don't believe. I wish you broke every single bone inside me that day instead of this. I pray every day and night that you will call me and tell me to come back. I truly believe that day will come. If there is a 0.001% chance, I will believe. And I will never stop believing. I will accept whatever condition you make me return. I will sleep on the floor, I will clean, cook, wash, not talk with anyone, I will lick the floor if I need to, I just want to be near you. I will never understand why I did that. What did I achieve? I was telling Z, her married friend that knew about the affair, how I don't find AP more attractive than you. In my eyes, no one is more beautiful than you. How I love sex with you 1,000,000 times more than with him. And I still went there a few times. I am so sick. I know you don't want to hear this, but I felt like the biggest trash then and with you like the happiest person. And again, I still did this. Since you left me, I ask myself, was everything okay with me back then? Sure, it wasn't, but when I try to remember everything, I feel like someone changed my head, like some type of drug was inside me to do that. I could never imagine myself doing that. Not even in the dreams. And I did that in reality and hurt the person I love the most. I really hope I will find the answer why I did this. I just hope you will not make your decision till then. You were always stronger than I was. I hope you will survive till then. If you want me to leave and stop calling, I will do that, but please don't forget about me. Don't give up on us like I did. I know this sounds horrible, but don't give up on us because of kids and everything we went through together. I know because of this my betrayal is even bigger, but I will do everything so we can be happy again wherever we will be. I am ready to follow you and be there for you 1,000 times more than I was till now. You know I would do and give everything for kids and you. You know how happy we were, but I destroyed everything. If you give me another chance, we will be happy again, because of you. We will have again like we had. I will show you for the rest of my life how sorry I am and that nothing and no one can stop my love for you. I understand you can say AP stopped, but he didn't. I never looked at AP like I was looking at you. I never touched him like I was touching you. I never even kissed him. I would never bring him near my kids. I would never ever tell him my secrets that I told you after a week of our relationship. I never smiled with him, but I was always smiling with you. I understand my actions tell a different story, but you were always the only man in my heart, and I will never stop hating myself for everything I did. I am so sorry for breaking your heart along with mine. This is something I will never ever forget, but I will live the rest of my life to be there for you and our angels in the best and worst, and I will appreciate every second with you more than ever. I love you more than anything, S. 2 additional pages were about her changes. She wrote this: I'm always telling you that I will do everything for you to forgive me, but I didn't actually do anything yet. Now I will make everything in my power so you can have some answers in your head and start believing me, and hopefully one day forgive me, at least in your mind, if not heart. She deleted her IG, TikTok, FB and will never activate them again. I can just say finally. She is trying to find a job. Hey, she has only high school. She has less than 10% chances to find the job here, even as a cleaner, but respect for the hustle. She will write a full timeline about her affair, I really don't care about this. She will not force contact with our sons, but she will go on every football practice they have and watch them. She will come to every event in the school. If they tell her to leave, she will leave. She will send them a few letters per week and will bring their favorite food, snacks and toys a couple of times per week. Okay, I like this. She cut contact with the friend that knew about the affair and told her to not call her anymore. It's not her fault, but she can't ask for my forgiveness if she still keeps in contact with the person that encouraged her to prolong the affair. She told me she will tell friend's husband that she knows about everything if I want. I like this because I never liked that cow and I honestly don't care if my husband knows or not. She will go on polygraph. She will answer about 20 questions about me, her and AP, and did she ever cheat me before. She is scheduled for 2 days. I am actually looking forward to this. I checked the reviews and it seems this agency is reliable. She will never ever leave the home without me. She says we can put the camera in our home so I can watch if she leaves. When I leave the house and I invite her with me, she will leave. If not, she will just be in the house around the kids. Yeah, this is insane. She will sign a postnup/deal/agreement that says if she ever makes any kind of infidelity, texting with unknown man, sexting, flirting, or PA, she is giving me full custody and leaving all the assets to me. I don't even know if this is possible, especially about kids. I know for assets it might be possible, but not so sure about kids. She starts going on IC this week. Whatever. She will not use phone anymore. If she does, she will not have a password and will delete and block all male, female contacts except us, family and 2 friends. She never had a password and I really don't care about her contacts. If we reconcile when she drives kids to the school and then goes to the supermarket, she will share her location and video record herself in the supermarket so I know she is not talking or meeting with anyone. Or she can order food directly to the house and I can see on the camera that she had contact with the delivery guy. As I said, insane. She started to listen to some podcasts from the ex-cheater and will purchase some books about infidelity. I can't express how much I don't care about this. There was also some other stuff, but it was literally so crazy. Like she will sell all her clothes and use that money for something else. If there is one thing about her that I still believe in, then it is that she doesn't care about money. She never ever bought herself any expensive piece of clothes, shoes, jewelry, bags, she just doesn't care about that. So if she sells everything, she wouldn't earn a lot. Also, she said when she finds a job she will buy food for herself and other things, so she will never take $1 from me. But my favorite is that she will sell her phone and start using an old phone like Nokia 3310. I would love to see that. At least she wouldn't be capable of sending me so many damn messages that fast. That's about that. Kids are okay. Doing as best as they can. I have a lot of things to do at my workplace, so I'm pretty busy. As I said, my wife still sends me messages where she wishes me good day, morning, night and asks how kids are doing. She sends me some pictures from the past or how she had dreams about some moments of us, and of course how much she regrets and loves me. Both of my sons will start visiting a psychologist tomorrow. I hope I will find some answers after that. Maybe I will update after if she sends me polygraph results. Thank you as always. Update 7. My kids started to visit a psychologist and it's not good. I talked with the psychologist days before their first session and explained everything to her. We went for the first time on Wednesday. After the session she explained to me that my older son is really hurt with everything. According to her, he has hate towards my wife, his mother, but that is his defensive mechanism. On the other hand, my younger son, according to her, suffers even more. She told me she can see that he just behaves like his older brother. In his statements she can see that he doesn't have a bad opinion about my wife but follows my older son and talks and behaves like the older one does. She told me the next time she would like to talk with them one by one. So we went again yesterday. My older brother was the first, then my younger. Each talked for about 60 minutes. When my younger son was inside, me and the older boy went to eat while we were waiting for the younger son. I didn't want to ask him anything, but then he told me out of nowhere something like, "Dad, I don't like this woman. She is bored and tells me to cry, but I just want to go home and play with my friends." I tried to stay normal, but I started to laugh. He is really mini me. Anyway, we went back to pick my younger son and then I talked with the psychologist. She told me straight away that my older son will need a lot of sessions. He is very protective of me and completely refuses to even acknowledge my wife. She is stunned that they had a perfect relationship and now that he behaves and talks like this. But she tells me he is 100% aware of what is happening and that my wife hurt me badly and that is his reason to be like this. She asked him if he has any desire to see her and he immediately said that he doesn't. Because of those answers she even asked me if I seeing some other woman and I was WTF. But then she shocked me for real when she said my younger self was in tears and finally opened himself. As we both thought, he follows my older son in his actions. Since all of this has happened, my older son was telling my younger son each day how my wife is cruel and evil and they need to support me. My younger son wanted to see her on his birthday and was sad when he saw her crying when my older son yelled at her. But didn't want to call her because he didn't want to disappoint me and my older son. He confessed to a psychologist that he misses her a lot. She told me I can call my wife next or another week so she can be in session with my younger son, and I said that's fine. And she told me to talk with him when we come home because he feels very sad now. We came home and we talked. He told me basically the same thing he said to her. Apparently my older son even told him a few days before his birthday to not call my wife at all. That she doesn't deserve to be around us. My younger son didn't like how my wife talked with Melody, but he wanted her to be at his birthday party. So I told him immediately that I asked him a lot of times if he was sure to not invite her, and every time he said he didn't want her. But again he explains he didn't want to disappoint us. I asked him what he wanted. Does he want to be with her? I told him he can be with her and I will visit him whenever I can daily. He immediately said no. He said he would like her to come back to live with us and he doesn't want to be with her without me. I told him he can tell me his true feelings and no one will be angry or disappointed, and he said this is how he feels. He even started to cry, so I stopped with questions and told him to calm down. Then later I talked with the older one and he is just one piece of mystery. He admitted that he was telling bad things about my wife to my younger son because she deserves it. I asked him immediately why she deserves that, and he responded quickly because she hurt me. So I'm up and down with him. I don't know if he knows something I don't. I mean, he will be 9 in December. He is a very smart kid and a great student, so I agree with the psychologist that he is aware of everything. I asked him if he wanted my wife to come back and he said no. My daughter is crazy about my wife, so no problem about her. I'm in contact with my wife but only with kids. She is begging for a new chance as always, sends long texts a few times per day. She called me today to say that her friend, not the married one that knew about AP, talked with her and he can find her job as a translator. My wife speaks perfect English and is fluent in the local language. She also reads and writes in local language perfectly, and that's very tough. So she is very excited because of this, but even more because she would work mostly from the house, and that is the most important to her because she can then prove me she is not doing anything except working. I didn't tell her anything about kids and psychologist. Also, on Wednesday when we finished with the psychologist, I drove my kids to football practice. Then I received a message from her, "You look so hot in an all-black combination." I started to look around me because other parents were near me and I didn't see her. Then I noticed her on the opposite side of the practice ground. She promised in her changes that she will watch their every practice, and if our sons ask her to leave, she will leave. They didn't tell me anything, so I don't think they even saw her. All of this is positive from her, can't lie about that. I also talked with my lawyer and asked him about that postnup deal she told me. He said it is possible in the country where we live, since according to law one of the parents needs to be foreigner to put infidelity clause in child custody and postnup. I was shocked to hear this, even though I've read some positive stories about this in recent days. But then while he was telling me this, I asked myself, why the hell do I even talk about this? I don't plan to touch my wife. I don't care if she is with 5 guys now. Me and her as a husband and wife are done. Even if she comes back to my house, it will be only because of kids. So whatever. He told me papers will be ready to serve her during the next week, but he told me to take some time and think good about everything and at the end decide what is the best for kids and myself. So that's about that. She saw our daughter today. They spent a few hours together. She told me she did an interview at the polygraph testing and will answer questions on Monday, and she already goes to IC meetings. I told her that a DGAF and she started to cry a little bit, that she doesn't know what to do and she is trying everything. I told her she knows what is the one thing she was never supposed to do and she did it, and I left. Tomorrow I plan to talk with my family, parents of my wife, friends, and then during the week with my kids and their psychologist, and then with my wife. I will wait to see how my kids will respond when I tell them she might never come back to this house. Also, I need to see how she will react when I tell her divorce papers are ready. Then her job. I need to wait for that to see if that will happen or not because of her visa. After all of this, I will decide what to do next week. My kids are my first priority. I am still very pro-divorce, but I am open to bringing her home for some time until she settles down and realizes we are done if my kids ask me that, or if their behavior is not good. If bringing her home will help them, I will do it. Thank you. I stopped having S*X with my wife unless she was sober, and now we're stuck in a loveless, roommate-like marriage, unsure of our future. My wife, 35F, and I, 35M, have been married for 15 years and together for 20. We have 2 children, ages 12 and 14, whom we adore, and we try constantly to provide them with the greatest possible life. Things have been difficult over the last 3 years. I recognize that our children take a lot of our time and resources, with school, band, sports, and extracurricular activities. I am aware of the toll it may have on marriages. However, for the last 3 years, my wife and I have had very little closeness or intercourse. We've been attempting to work on that aspect of our relationship, but the last year has been the most difficult, by far the darkest year of our marriage. We seldom spoke and eventually became roommates, co-parenting under the same home. It was gloomy and discouraging, prompting us to consider divorce. Things became so dark that the entire home turned dismal. We sought aid through individual and couples therapy. I stopped having sex with my wife unless she was sober, and now we're stuck in a loveless, roommate-like marriage, unsure of our future. My wife, 35F, and I, 35M, have been married for 15 years and together for 20. We have 2 children, ages 12 and 14, whom we adore, and we try constantly to provide them with the greatest possible life. Things have been difficult over the last 3 years. I recognize that our children take a lot of our time and resources, with school, band, sports, and extracurricular activities. I am aware of the toll it may have on marriages. However, for the last 3 years, my wife and I have had very little closeness or intercourse. We've been attempting to work on that aspect of our relationship, but the last year has been the most difficult, by far the darkest year of our marriage. We seldom spoke and eventually became roommates, co-parenting under the same home. It was gloomy and discouraging, prompting us to consider divorce. Things became so dark that the entire home turned dismal. I stopped having sex with my wife unless she was sober, and now we're stuck in a loveless, roommate-like marriage, unsure of our future. My wife, 35F, and I, 35M, have been married for 15 years and together for 20. We have 2 children, ages 12 and 14, whom we adore, and we try constantly to provide them with the greatest possible life. Things have been difficult over the last 3 years. I recognize that our children take a lot of our time and resources, with school, band, sports, and extracurricular activities. I am aware of the toll it may have on marriages. However, for the last 3 years, my wife and I have had very little closeness or intercourse. We've been attempting to work on that aspect of our relationship, but the last year has been the most difficult, by far the darkest year of our marriage. We seldom spoke and eventually became roommates, co-parenting under the same home. It was gloomy and discouraging, prompting us to consider divorce. Things became so dark that the entire home turned dismal. We sought aid through individual and couples therapy, which seemed to improve gradually. We began having in-depth conversations about what our marriage looked like and what we hoped it could be. Then things got tougher. My wife told me she was no longer in love with me, but simply saw me as a best friend and loved me in a platonic way. This absence of romantic love was one of the reasons she did not want closeness or sex. I was astonished and devastated. I grew angry and unhappy, unable to understand why the person I loved no longer wanted or desired me. Things deteriorated again, and we were back at square one. One afternoon, I had a heart-to-heart with her, asking where the source of the problem was. Her reaction was, "I don't know." She admitted to harboring animosity against me but couldn't pinpoint the source. This provided little information into how to fix things, leaving me perplexed and frustrated. We've gotten to the point where she claims she has no sex drive or desire for intimacy. She claims she only wants companionship, implying a co-parenting roommate dynamic. I asked her what I could do or what made me unappealing, and her response was invariably, "I don't know." She admits to loving me, but it isn't the same. She's felt isolated for years, and marriage seems like too much work. Her primary emphasis is on the children, and my efforts as a co-parent are important to her. I'm at a loss and simply voicing my frustration. It's difficult to accept that the person you love no longer cares about you. I feel as if I'm only here to give financially and as a parent. When she talks about companionship, it appears that she is content with having a nice father for the children and my financial assistance. She has told me that she has no interest in intimacy and does not want it right now. She stated that the only way she could have sex was if she was intoxicated, which I find abhorrent and unacceptable. I told her I wouldn't be a part of that because forcing herself into intimacy with booze or drugs is unhealthy. To my surprise, this angered her and made her more aloof. Despite this, we are both very honest and open. We have never cheated and we have full access to each other's phones, emails, and social media, but we rarely check. I inquired whether there was anyone else and she denied it, which I trust. We gently searched each other's belongings and, as predicted, found nothing untoward. We've always been forthright, even about difficult things, so I don't suspect any wrongdoing or cheating. Is it wrong for me to decline sex when she's intoxicated? I'm solid in my viewpoint since drunk or high sex does not sit well with me. I have no idea how to help our position, and I am feeling increasingly frightened and frantic. We're both fairly young, healthy and attractive. We both have stable employment and are excellent parents. I'm not sure how our lives brought us to this point. I'd appreciate some outside perspective and advice on how to handle something like this. It feels terrible to be unwanted and undesirable by my own husband. I despise it. We did some swinging in the past, which was enjoyable for a bit. We agreed to stop and have determined that it is no longer a factor. When we were swinging, our marriage appeared to be in good condition. We informed our couples therapist to ensure that we were not overlooking a potential problem. I asked my wife if our swinging experience had changed her opinion of our relationship, but she responded no. Our swinging was always done together, and it was entirely sex-based, with no emotional or polyamorous elements. I believe her because she has always been upfront and honest, even when it is uncomfortable. Swinging was her idea, not mine, and I trust her when she says it's no longer an issue. It could be something she needs to discuss further with her therapist or during our couples treatment. Update 1. The term resentment has long been a central element in therapy. It's been eating me up inside, especially since my wife keeps telling me she has no idea why she is bitter or what's bothering her emotionally. I brought this up again with our therapist, and we spoke about how we'd been together for 15 years, married since we were 14 years old. We grew up together and welcomed our first child when she was 19 and I was 20. That dramatically altered the trajectory of our life. We lived in extreme poverty and faced several difficulties, with little social life over the past decade since we were too preoccupied with raising children. Our children, now 12 and 14, took up all of our attention. The therapist asked my wife a lot of questions about her emotions and 90% of her answers were about the kids. It felt like she was reluctant to say how bad things were at times because she may feel guilty or ashamed, as if it meant she regretted having children. I brought this up during the session, and the therapist pushed her to look at things from a more personal perspective, rather than just as a mother. This was an eye-opener. My wife stated that she was frustrated that we had lost out on so many life events. She was clear, though, that she didn't miss out on other relationships, dating or partying, but she did feel like she had lost all of her friends. This was huge, as one of the most difficult aspects of our lives has been how secluded we've grown while raising children. I reminded her of the importance of friendships and how she should prioritize herself and her social relationships. For the past 3 years, we've talked about the importance of friendships, particularly with peers who can help us negotiate life's problems or just provide us joy. My wife always avoids this, despite her desire for external stimuli. Her children have always been the reason she hasn't invested in friendships or herself. At this point in the conversation, it was evident that many of her complaints were related to the children. I inquired whether she was upset with me because I got her pregnant so young, and she responded no. She admitted that it was illogical to blame me because it takes two to tango. I saw this as progress since it provided us with something to work on. We agreed to devote more time to nurturing friendships, both jointly and individually. Toward the end of the session, we addressed next moves. It was still unknown what would happen. I was forthright in asking my wife what her plans were. I had decided before the session that if she insisted on the co-parenting roommate scenario, I would turn 180 degrees and focus on myself. She essentially repeated the same thing. She doesn't want closeness or sex with me right now, but she loves me and feels horrible about not being there for me. As I said in my initial post, I brought up the brief swinging encounter and she assured me that it was not an issue. I agree with her, it was a mechanical solution to a problem that did not exist at the time. We tried it, agreed to quit and went on. I also mentioned additional life situations that could have produced animosity, but we didn't make much progress in determining the fundamental cause, which was frustrating. I immediately told my wife that I would not be okay with the arrangement. I informed her that I had done everything I could and that this matter no longer involved me or required any more action on my side. I was quite clear that I would not tolerate this dynamic and that I needed to be with someone who actively participated in our marriage, worked toward resolutions, and was interested in sustaining an intimate and sexual relationship. I made it plain that I was not going to be a convenience or just a roommate and co-parent. I told her that I loved her and wanted this to work, but that I would only stay committed to the marriage if she was as devoted. If she wasn't, I wouldn't continue in a relationship where my efforts weren't appreciated. I assured her that I had no plans to leave or seek a divorce, but if this dynamic persisted, divorce was unavoidable. Of course, there were tears, And the session ended on a gloomy, unhappy note. Nothing was addressed, and I left feeling discouraged, determined to begin the 180 approach as soon as possible. The 180 method necessitates maintaining distance while remaining cold and transactional, which is unpleasant, especially since this dynamic was already chilly and transactional. I started following the 180 tactics the same day, informing my wife that I would respect the roommate and co-parent dynamic without complaint, but she should know that I wasn't happy and would never be okay with it. I also told her that if she didn't want to put in the effort, I would stop working on it. She agreed and retired to bed. I began establishing distance, focused on myself, and keeping conversations brief and transactional. When she requested for assistance with personal matters, I declined, which surprised her. She was outraged, accusing me of being juvenile, but I emphasized that she was now accountable for her own life and difficulties. We didn't talk much during the next 3 days, just when absolutely necessary. During this time, she grew visibly concerned and stressed, but I resisted my natural want to console and assist her. She cried one night, telling me she was stressed and worried about me because of my indifference. I reminded her, am I the asshole for making my son live with his mother, stepdad, and 3 step-siblings after he verbally abused my husband? This entire situation is kinda fucked, and honestly I'm a bit heartbroken for my husband. Real names IDC: I'm Sean 37M, my husband is Zach 36M, and my son is 16, not saying his name. I divorced my ex-wife after she cheated on me for the entirety of our marriage. That was over a decade ago. IDC anymore, son is mine already, over and done. I met Zach when I was 28, my son was 7. Me and Zach hit it off instantly. I was finally in a place to start dating again, and thankfully he was the first person I was interested in. We connected on everything me and my ex-wife did, and a million more things. People say life has a plan for you, and honestly I believe it. I'd go through a million more divorces and be cheated on over and over if I ended up with him every time. One of the big things was my son. Zach was hesitant at first just because of the situation, but he wanted a family badly, and I was excited for him to meet my son. After dating for a year, I talked to my ex and told her I'm introducing our son to a guy I'm seeing, told her it's serious and I see a future with him. She was happy for me. We have a very good relationship now. Just told me to tell her when I was going to do it so she could be prepared if our son had any questions for her when he visited next. Zach and my son were best friends. Did everything together. They loved playing Minecraft together. They spent hours sitting in front of the TV. I loved watching them. I was so fucking happy. The first person I found after my ex was this amazing. After about 6 months I asked Zach to move in, and the rest is exactly as I've been describing. Amazing. My son started calling Zach his other dad when he was 10. Very sweet moment, which makes this hurt worse. Well, last weekend my son had 3 of his friends over. They were playing video games in his room, and I just left to do grocery shopping for the week, so it was just them and Zach. I don't know how this topic came up, but things got very homophobic. My husband was sitting on the couch, and I guess my son and his friends thought me, and he left, but it was just me. My son's room is connected to the living room, so if you're sitting in the living room it's not super hard to hear what's going on in his room if he's being loud enough. 4 teenage boys playing video games. One of them said how it feels having a F-slur, IDK if I can say it or not on here, as a father. My son laughed and said it was kinda shitty. They said my husband probably touched him when he was little, and my son replied, he can try it now, he'll get his ass beat. So not even being a dick to Zach, but now also threatening him over something we all know he would never do. They kept saying shit like, which one do you think takes it in the ass? Probably the F-slur, at least your real dad still likes women. Just a bunch of hateful shit. My husband sat there listening to it all, silently crying. Also, Zach has spent a good 4 hours a day at the gym for the last 3 years, so IDK who's getting their ass beat, but it ain't him. I got home about 2 hours later to my husband sitting in his car with a bag packed waiting for me so he could leave, but didn't want to leave my son alone. I asked what's going on, why are you leaving, and he told me everything. I tried to understand as best I could. I insisted he wasn't serious. He's just being a stupid kid acting tough with his friends, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. Zach left and I went inside and went off on my son. His friends left and I spent a good 3 hours going back and forth with my son. At first he was very unapologetic and kind of agreed with his friends. I asked if he actually thought my husband sexually abused him when he was younger, and he said no, but kids block those kinds of memories out, so really who knows. I told him to pack his shit, he's living with his mother. Info: his mom lives 3 hours away, which means new school, new friends if at all, less private space as he'd have to share a room with his stepbrother, etc. Just everything that you'd expect going from a single kid in a house to one of 4. My son instantly changed his attitude. He was crying, begging me not to send him away. He didn't mean it, He was just lying to seem cool to his friends. I asked why he doubled down when they left and he didn't have an answer. I told him to pack his shit, he's leaving in the morning. Called my ex, told her the situation, and she agrees he needs something drastic. What he did wasn't okay at all. Fast forward to now and my husband is back, but he cries every night. Honestly, it feels like he's mourning, which I don't want, because when you mourn you don't get over someone, you get as close to indifferent as possible to keep living your life without them. I don't want that. I want my husband and my son to have that strong bond I know they have and don't want them to throw it away over this. I don't agree with what my son did, but those accusations at minimum can ruin someone's life and at most end it. I'm disgusted with my son. He calls me every day and tells me he misses me and Zach and wants to come home. I stay strong on the phone, but after I break down and my husband tries to console me. Tell me my son can come back and he will leave, but no, I'm not doing that. I just don't know what to do. I miss my son. I miss coming home and seeing them spending time together. I've thought about therapy for him, but he said no. You can't force therapy on someone. They'll just sit there for an hour and piss away $400. I need advice. Relevant comments. The Book of Torment. I'd be contacting the parents of those 3 other idiots too. OOP. I told them what happened and why they came home so soon. Original plan was to spend the night over. They said they'd handle it and thanked me for informing them, but who knows if they actually did anything. Stoner Therapist 89, NTA. Therapist here, but obviously everyone is different, so take it with a grain of salt. Parenting is sometimes wildly difficult, and this is one of those times. You did exactly the right thing. There are so many lessons for your son to learn here. Just name a few. He needs to not only learn the consequences of his actions, but that some things truly cannot be taken back. 2. Trying to be cool by being an asshole for absolutely no reason will not end well. It will not only alienate the people who actually care about you, but the people who get off on being unkind will eventually turn on you too. 3. Most people do not get along with their step-parents, and he has been taking that for granted. Separately, if you let him back and Zach leaves, your relationship with your son will be forever altered, as well as your son's life in general. All the love Zach has for him and their connection can be repaired once he gets his head out of his ass. If Zach leaves, your son will know he ruined his father's relationship for the rest of his life. The guilt and resentment from that can cause huge problems later on in life. This can be worked on. It can be resolved. I strongly suggest making family therapy a requirement for moving back into the house with an LGBTQIA+ friendly therapist, who can get down to the root of how harmful this was and make him understand that. Individual therapy is also a great idea, but family dynamic stuff needs to take priority. Edited to correct names. Grimwall. This is great advice, but considering the man alleged he was possibly a pedophile, OP's husband clearly isn't going to risk his future on someone who is capable of being that callous. I wouldn't either. This is fixable, but it doesn't mean it will be. It's not any different if a blended family comes together, and the daughter accuses her stepdad of touching her. There was literally a post 2 months ago about this exactly. He moved out, divorced the mom, and refused to stop the divorce once she confessed her bio dad put her up to it so he could fuck with the mom. Kid thought dad would come back if it happened. Newsflash, he didn't. That said, everyone told him that his future wasn't worth risking it. Just because he didn't get a full-on accusation and a police investigation doesn't mean he should be asked to risk it. I'm saying the same here. Zach said he would move out if the son came back. I think we are likely beyond counseling, at least for a while, certainly not while he's a minor. There is hope in the future though, and this is the way. Neat Pen 6522, absolutely NTA. Your son is old enough to know what he said is wrong, and he also chose being cool to his friends over his stepdad, who has shown him nothing but love and support for more than half his life. Everything we say and do has a consequence, whether good or bad, and no one should be exempt from those consequences even when it hurts. It's the pain that teaches the lesson of how powerful our words and actions are. With that said, the consequences can be taken further to ensure that your son learns this valuable lesson. I think you and Zach need to sit down and make a list of things your son needs to accomplish this year while with his mother in order for Zach to feel comfortable with your son moving back at some point. Some examples. Volunteer in some sort of LGBT program for teens where he has to directly interact with them one-on-one. Counseling. A letter of apology to Zach and a separate one to you. A sit-down, probably over Zoom, with you guys, him, his mother, and her partner if she has one, where all his parents discuss how wrong his choice was, the real-life consequences to Zach that could have happened, how he broke trust with Zach, and so on. He needs to see all of you adults band together on this so he can get it hammered home that you are united in this. Anything Zach personally requires from your son in order to move forward. The harsh truth that things may never be the same with him and Zach ever again. His words permanently impacted that. Update. This will be long. Sorry. Not going to lie, the entire OG post was basically a disaster. I expected a few replies with only one actually being helpful and then the post died. Didn't happen that way. So much back and forth and so much hate towards me being gay. I expected some, but holy shit. I was done with that post when someone suggested that me and my husband both abuse my son sexually just now. Disaster. I thought living in bumfuck Montana was bad with the homophobic shit I deal with. As for the update, I spent the day yesterday with my son. A lot of people accused me of not taking his claim seriously. I did. The first 30 minutes of our initial talk when this all happened was about if he actually was abused. He said no. I asked again when I got here. I made sure to let him know there is no one I'd believe over him. He won't be punished for saying the truth if he was abused for not, but I needed to know. Again, he said no, he was never touched or raped by my husband. On to the questions and his answers. Why would you say something so dangerous? My son said he was feeling rejected by my husband since as of late he hasn't been spending nearly as much time with him. Which is true. A large part of my husband's life is my son. Zach tutors him, he coaches him in his sport, basketball. He goes on morning runs with my son, he used to drive him to and from school before my son got his car. They both share a lot of interests and as a kid/step-parent dynamic they spend a lot of time together. Towards the end of last year's summer when my son was still with his mother's, my husband talked to me. He said he wanted to start spending more time apart, but not that kind of apart. He wanted to have more of a social life. He wanted to be able to do things away from us but not like separate, if that makes sense. He realized my son would be leaving for college in 2-ish years and my son was such a large part of his life he didn't want to become depressed after he left with nothing to do. I agreed and said it was a good idea and he had my full support as long as he still came home every night at a reasonable time and didn't let his relationship with my son suffer or anything. As of now, yes, it is different. My son doesn't need rides to school. He doesn't need tutoring. He doesn't do basketball anymore. Their hobbies are still the same, but my husband has been spending less time at home. It's not like he's gone all hours of the day and comes back at 3 a.m., but he has a healthy social life. IDK, how to explain it? Do you realize how dangerous it is to say something like that if it isn't true? He said yes and he didn't think anyone was listening. He was just going along with his friend's shit. That didn't make sense to me, so I asked why he stood by his statement after I sent his friends home. He said he thought he shouldn't back down from something he says. Kind of like a ride or die. IDK. I told him that's fucking stupid and never do that, especially if he regrets what he said and it wasn't true in the first place. He said he knows he realized that when it happened, but he just couldn't stop himself from keeping it up. It didn't hit him that it was serious until I told him he's going to stay with his mother. Why do you want to be friends with people that talk so much shit about your parents? He doesn't want to, but the kids bully the shit out of everyone they don't like and he feels like he's in too deep to back out now. I do understand, I had kids in my school like that. Bully everyone. They were cool to me though until they found out I was gay, then they fucked my last few years of high school up. I told him I get it to some degree, but he doesn't have to add into what they're saying. Small chuckle and a fuck you is usually enough to get people to move on from something. I also asked about them bullying him because they kind of were. He said yeah, but they're not that bad with it. They just rip into him every so often about having gay dads, and I guess over time it made my son feel poorly towards my husband. The distance my husband was setting with my son mixed with his friends saying the shut they did just added up to that. I told him I understood. I want to make it clear, I don't support what he said. I understand the emotions behind it though. Why didn't you talk to us about how you were feeling? He said he didn't want to start anything. My husband and he are still close. He didn't know how he felt and was more confused than anything. So why say something that would cause a fight if he didn't even know if he felt that way? I also understood this. At this point I think this is just one miscommunication after another. Open dialogue would have prevented all of this from happening. There were a lot more questions, but me and my ex ended with, do you actually feel remorseful for what you said, or are you just tired of sleeping in the same room as a 7-year-old? He's actually remorseful. Told me even if he was staying there all year he would still feel terrible over what he said about Zach. Reassuring him again if anything did happen, now is the time to speak and I will believe him again. He said no. He started crying saying he just missed us. Emotional moment, we hugged, told him I loved him and that would never change. Ask him to leave the room so me and his mother could talk. We decided on a month-to-month assessment to see when he would get privileges back, ending with him coming home. There were conditions to all of this, like family therapy, solo therapy, cutting his friends off completely, which I would help with. He was against the solo therapy but came around. He asked if Zach was here. I said no but would ask him if he wanted to come next time, which my son smiled at. I still agree sending my son to my ex-wife's was the right move. A lot of people aggressively disagree. Which is fine. My parenting style isn't for everyone. One of you told me I should beat the kids up though, so like, do I really care if some of you disagree with how I patent IDK? Not really. Situation still sucks. IDK, what to say? I miss my son. He isn't coming home right now and I wish I was leaving her house with him. As it stands right now, son is living with his mother and her family. He will get his phone and PS5 and car back at the end of the first, second and third month. In that order, he will be able to move out of the room he's currently in, out into the guest house at the end of month 4. Every month after that is touch and go, and we'll discuss at the end of each month what we think son will do. Bi-weekly solo therapy, and we will all do bi-weekly family therapy. We see it as he should do solo therapy 1 week, then family therapy the next. He can come back sooner. I want him back. My husband wants him back. He's wanted him back since he left. His mother is holding strong, but she also sees he's just miserable, so I think she'll break at some point and give up the guest house early. It is what it is. At the end of the night, my son asked if Zach would want to hear from him so he could apologize, and I told him yes. I've told him yes a few times now. Zach would love to hear from him. I doubt he'd have to wait longer than 1 ring before Zach picked up. My son called him as I was leaving, so I know they spoke. IDK about what though? When I got home, Zach was feeling like shit and blaming himself more for all of this. I told him it's no one's fault, we just needed to talk to each other more. All in all, I think my son is remorseful and he was just feeling trapped and isolated in a shitty situation and didn't know how to get out of. I feel for him and I wish I saw what was happening sooner. Thank you all for the advice. Or most of you. Some of you were just nasty and hateful. Someone on my first post called Stoner Therapist something like that gave good fucking advice. I didn't say it on that post, but if you read this good shit, thanks for it. Next update will be when he comes home. Hopefully it will be soon. Thanks y'all. Relevant comments. Scary Cycle 1508. I think my last verdict was NTA, so I can only reiterate that I do think you did the right thing. You removed your son from a situation that wasn't just hurtful to your husband, but also to your son, because the influence from those other kids was just disgusting. Also to your husband. It's definitely not his fault. He is doing the smart thing, developing a social life for when your son is off to school. Did you talk to your son about why Zach was spending less time at home? Did he understand that it was so he wouldn't be as miserable once your son is out of the house? Avocado_Mr. 284. With what Zach did, the issue isn't that he chose to develop a social life. That's smart of him. The issue is that he pulled away from this kid he had a very close parental relationship with, and gave him no warning or explanation. That's going to make any kid insecure and unhappy. Sure, OP could have explained this to his son, but honestly, in a perfect world, since Zach and the son were so close, he would have done this himself instead of being shielded by OP, and would have known to do this. Both OP and Zach did screw up here. Not on a massive level, to be clear. Just the ordinary kind of screw up which all parents, even the excellent ones, make at some point. It just sucks that it spiraled here. But I do think the bullying and discriminatory environment at school is more to blame than this mistake. Revolutionary Cow 7961. What your kid did is horrible, not gonna sugarcoat. But what your husband did and you allowed was bound to backfire. Who the hell ever heard of pulling away from your kid because he'd be going to college in a couple of years? And your husband didn't want to feel sad because he would miss him so much when he left. For God's sake, your husband needs to grow emotionally. Way to cause your kid to have a breakdown because he suddenly feels unloved and doesn't know why. I'm sorry, what the kid said was reprehensible, but if anyone is to blame here, it's the parents for being idiots and thinking this would ease your husband's feelings of loss because the little boy is growing up. He basically abandoned the kid with no explanation and pulled away. What did you think the end result would be? Consider yourself lucky he didn't go hog wild, bad kid. I'm sorry this comes across as mean, but I just can't get over doing this to a kid. Prompt No 2857. This is one of the most extreme punishments I've ever heard for a kid's first offense. This kid was getting teased because of his parents and was never coached on what to say. And now they are punished for 4 months because a parent overheard and didn't realize the child was a victim too. OOP, I never said this was his first offense. Most recently he asked a girl out, she said no, so he and his friends egged her car. This is his first offense, as in accusing someone of assault when it wasn't true. But I feel like that's a pretty serious thing to do and not common, so IDK. I doubt he will be gone for 4 months. Prompt No 2857. He didn't accuse Zach of abuse. He was deflecting so he wouldn't be ridiculed. He was in a position he wasn't prepared for. I know you don't want your son ridiculed and teased about being gay at school because that's likely what would have happened if he took up for Zach. Now, for egging someone's car, that's a physical, not just words among friends, and deserves a harsher punishment because that's assault and vandalism. Mighty fine hotcakes. Thank you, stoner therapist from a fellow psych graduate. My comment was very blunt in saying y'all need to do the hard thing and go to therapy. Good job on being parents. It'll take time, but it will be time well invested for the well-being of your family. Stoner therapist 89, reading the feedback on my post was so interesting. Gotten everything from being called a hero to, you're the worst therapist in the world. So as I said, very interesting. My stepdaughter helped my husband hide his affair, so I took her college fund. Now they're begging me to forgive them. Hello Reddit. I need your aid right now since I'm in a difficult situation with my stepdaughter and don't know what to do. For reference, I, 42F, have spent 15 years with my soon-to-be ex-husband David, 44M. We've been married for 10 of those 15 years, and I loved him more than anybody else in the world. He has a daughter, Stacy, 17F, from a prior relationship. He and Stacy's mother were never married. They had a brief fling for a few months, but she became pregnant and opted to keep the baby. They'd split up just a few weeks before she discovered she was pregnant. They chose to maintain a friendly relationship so that they could co-parent the baby. Unfortunately, Stacy's mother died in a vehicle accident when Stacy was only 6 months old, leaving only David and his daughter. He informed me at the start of our relationship that he wasn't just searching for a wife, but also someone who would be a wonderful mother to Stacy. I was willing to do it since I adored children, and Stacy was only 2 at the time. I honestly didn't mind that he had a daughter. I was prepared to accept her as my own and raise her accordingly. I took our relationship extremely seriously from the start. After 5 years together, we decided to marry. Our relationship had ups and downs, but at the end of the day I believed he loved me as much as I loved him. I had no cause to suspect he might be cheating on me. Even a few months ago, we were discussing commemorating our 10th wedding anniversary with a family trip to some exotic location, and he was really pleased about it. People who cheat on their wives don't seem to be enthused about a family trip, so I didn't expect this. I discovered 6 days ago that he had been cheating on me with a coworker for the past 7 months. I was at work, minding my own business, when I received an email from a coworker. It contained all of the specifics of their affair. She even supplied documentation of text exchanges, phone calls, and images of them together at locations on days when he claimed he was abroad on business, but those excursions were actually romantic getaways with her, which I had known about. I was stunned when I received the email. I instantly went home, unsure what else to do. Nobody was home at the time because Stacy was out with a friend and David was working. So I examined those emails carefully again because I didn't want to have a breakdown at work. I noticed she had also included her phone number in case I wished to call her. She explained that she was doing this because she knew David would never tell me, and she believed I deserved to know the truth. David had apparently been promising her for the last 6 months that he would tell me the truth and discontinue our relationship since she was uncomfortable having an affair with a married guy. I think her conscience had kicked in, or something, but David kept promising to tell me. I even saw screenshots of him indicating he was ending our marriage to be with her. She had initially believed him, but after nearly 3 months of waiting, she decided to inform me herself. After reading that email, I reflected on it for a time before calling her because the worst had already happened. I was still in denial, so I figured speaking with her would help me realize this wasn't a cruel prank, it was actually happening. When I spoke with her, she began by apologizing and explaining that she had no intention of hurting my marriage and had simply fallen in love with David. That was why she believed I deserved to know the truth. She went on to detail how the affair began, how long it had lasted, and all of the promises he had made to her, which were identical to those he had made to me at the outset of our relationship. My heart broke with each word she whispered to me. By the end of the conversation, I was certain there could be nothing more painful. But then she revealed that Stacy had been aware of everything and had been assisting him in concealing his activities. That really destroyed me since, in my opinion, I had always been Stacy's mom. I never thought of her as a stepdaughter. I had known that girl since she was 2 years old and raised her as my own. So the fact that she had also deceived me felt like the end of the world. His coworker informed me that whenever David needed to lie to me or cover up something, Stacy would make excuses for his absence and explain why he wasn't returning my calls. In exchange for her silence, he offered her expensive gifts. That explained a lot of recent events. David had been completely indulging her, which had never happened before, but I assumed he was doing well at work, so he was buying her lovely stuff. He had also bought me a lot of jewelry and clothes, so I assumed his new practice of giving us presents was due to his success at business, but apparently not. Knowing Stacy had been a part of this and had met her father's affair partner multiple times while keeping it a secret from me devastated my heart much more than realizing David had been cheating on me. After that phone call, I decided to pack my belongings and leave the house since I did not want to be there any longer, waiting for the two of them to return home. I felt terribly betrayed and could not stop crying. I didn't want David to have the satisfaction of seeing me like that, so I packed a few items and drove to a motel outside of town. I shut off my phone since I did not want to be called. I was upset that day and ended up drinking myself to sleep in my hotel room. The next morning, I had to switch my phone back on to report ill to work. That's when I discovered I had 1,000 unanswered texts and missed calls from David and Stacy, and I didn't want to respond to any of them. I also noticed a text message from a person at the auto dealership with whom I had been discussing purchasing a new vehicle. I had been putting off making the purchase since I wanted to save more money before buying it, which was pricey. I had also been saving for our anniversary trip and Stacy's 17th birthday, intending to give her a new automobile rather than buying one for myself. When I got that SMS, I remembered how I had planned to gift Stacy a car for her birthday, which made me angry. In a fit of rage, I decided to concentrate on making myself happy without regard for anyone else. The guy from the dealership had inquired if I was still intending on buying the car, and on a whim, I went down to the dealership and purchased a sparkling new luxury car. I hadn't planned to buy it because it was well out of my price range, but I didn't have to worry about it. Since I married David 10 years ago, I've been saving for Stacy's college education. I had intended to offer her access to that account as a surprise when she announced which college she would be attending. But now that I knew what had been going on for the past few months, I didn't want to surprise anyone except myself. I took money from that account to buy the fancy car, which I then drove to our house to face David and Stacy. When I arrived, they attempted to hug me and tell me how worried they were, but I didn't let them. I instantly revealed that David's coworker had contacted me, and I now knew the whole extent of what had been going on behind my back. I was quite unhappy with both of them. They both looked shocked. David, at least, had the foresight not to say anything because he knew the game was up. Stacy tried to speak with me, stating she was only trying to look out for her father and didn't know what to do. She burst into tears, claiming she was confused because she loved us both equally and wanted us to be happy, but I didn't believe her. I assumed she was mature enough to understand what was good and wrong, and she purposefully chose to do the opposite. Furthermore, I'm very sure the presents she was receiving from her father helped her keep quiet about the whole affair. I told her I didn't believe a word she was saying. I was so furious off and upset that I announced my departure from David. He should have seen it coming, because I doubt anyone in my position would have stayed after learning something like this. I informed Stacy that, more than David, I was disappointed in her. Husbands cheat all the time, and this isn't the first or last time a woman will experience it. But I'd always expected Stacy to have my back. Despite the fact that we were not blood relatives, I had never considered her to be my stepdaughter. I had loved her as much as my own, if not more. Her deception and betrayal affected me more than anything her father did. So I determined that the education fund I had been saving for her over the years was no longer something she deserved. I was leaving them both behind. It was difficult for me to say that, and I almost cried up because this had been my family for the last 15 years. But after telling her, I walked out without giving them the opportunity to explain and returned to the hotel. They kept phoning, but I refused to stop. They even followed me out, and I'm fairly certain they saw the new automobile I purchased. I drove away as fast as I could. After that, I wanted to block them, but I couldn't since I was still emotionally processing everything. They've been attempting to contact me for the past 5 days, texting virtually every hour and calling me, but I'm at a loss for words. So I just read all of their messages and left it at that. David had been trying to persuade me to forgive him for the first several days, but when he saw it was fruitless, he began apologizing and admitting that I deserved better. However, he began pleading with me to reconsider what I was doing to Stacy, stating she was only a child and did not deserve to suffer as a result of his acts. Stacy has also texted me along the same lines, confessing her mistake and requesting a second chance. She says she has always thought of me as her mother and is deeply sorry for everything. I had been ignoring everything, but yesterday I received a text from David saying he was tired of apologizing without getting a response. He demanded to know if I had any intention of returning to the family. That irritated me because he was the one who made a mistake, and he had no right to be angry with me. I instantly texted him back, claiming that I had already spoken with a lawyer and filed for divorce, which was false. I was still processing things and hadn't had the opportunity to consult with a lawyer yet, but he didn't need to know that. He didn't respond for about an hour, And when he did, he sent me a lengthy message accusing me of being selfish and the villain for responding in this manner. He stated he was fine with me filing for divorce and leaving him, but the fact that I chose to leave Stacy behind demonstrated how selfish I was. He told me that Stacy had been upset since I left, and that my unwillingness to allow her access to the college monies I had been accumulating for her had hurt her very hard. He was aware of the college fund, but had not bothered to save enough money for her tuition because he trusted me to handle it. I remember mentioning the college fund to him countless times. He knew I had been saving cash to surprise Stacy, but I had no idea he had not saved anything for her school. Now that Stacy is considering going to college out of state, which would be even more expensive, it's unclear whether she will be able to attend her preferred college. David believes I am the evil guy for taking away the college fund and shoving it in her face. He doesn't understand why I won't let her have access to the money since I've always planned to give it to her. To him, it appears like I am using this one error to be selfish, especially since he saw my new automobile. He believes I should reconsider. Now I am torn on what to do. According to his words, I don't feel comfortable taking things away from a child only to teach them a lesson or punish them. I've never been that type of parent and I don't want to start now. However, Stacy is not quite a child. She realized what she was doing was wrong. I do not know. I feel like she's terribly disappointed me and perhaps what I'm doing isn't that bad. I'm just really perplexed. Is it wrong of me to tell my stepdaughter that I would no longer fund her college tuition after discovering she helped my husband cover up his affair? Update 1. Hello, I apologize for not being able to provide you with an update during the last 2 weeks. It was only that I had been quite busy with job and dealing with my lawyer, so there was a lot on my plate. But now I've got some time. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who commented on my initial article and gave me so much love and support. I am grateful from the bottom of my heart. Knowing that there were people who supported me, even if they were complete strangers, made things much simpler to live with. So when David texted me and I posted, I felt I didn't need to entertain any of it. Most of the comments on my article stated the same thing. I needed to block him and file for divorce as soon as possible so I could finally get him out of my life. And this is exactly what I did. Within the next several days I had consulted with a lawyer and filed for divorce. I also concluded I didn't owe Stacy anything. Even if I were her biological parent, I would not have given her money to go her dream college. She should have considered these things before assisting her father in cheating on me. You cannot stab me in the back and expect me to turn around and grin. I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter how old or who you are. That's simply not how this works. David's allegation that Stacy was being punished for what he did was incorrect. She was being punished for what she had done, and I made it abundantly obvious when I last met with them in person. I declined to give her the college fund since she opted not to inform me about her father's infidelity. That is the reason, and I believe I'm being fair. If they want to be angry about it, they are free to do so, but I will not tolerate it, which is why I blocked them. They now have absolutely no access to me. They are still attempting to reach me by calling from different numbers, messaging from new numbers, and emailing me from fictitious addresses. It doesn't matter, because all I do is read the texts and emails while ignoring everything else. Update 2. I eventually found out what was going to happen with the divorce, and happily, David is not opposing anything. I hope we can have a calm and amicable divorce. It's been about 3 weeks since I discovered he was cheating on me, and my life has drastically changed. I had been living at a motel until last week, but it was becoming too expensive. Even though I had enough money to remain for a few more weeks or months, I opted not to waste it. So I moved in with a buddy, who has graciously allowed me to stay until I can get my own apartment. I've also begun to contemplate therapy for myself after a buddy, who is a licensed professional, told me it would benefit me in the long term. I am thinking about it. Perhaps the most significant change was that I quit my job. It is a tremendous issue because I have been working non-stop for almost 20 years. I began working immediately after graduating from college, and I had previously worked part-time. But I believe I need a break right now. I've accumulated enough money over the last 10 years to take a few months off, reorganize my life and launch my own business. That had always been the plan, but I decided to put it off until Stacy left for college so I wouldn't have to worry about money. Now that no one is holding me back, I can do whatever I want. So there's the plan. I'm going to spend these months developing a business model, looking for investors, and all that jazz. I'm actually looking forward to the future, even though I'm still sad about everything that has happened. I have also spoken with my parents about the divorce. I hadn't told them previously since I was still processing everything, but after speaking with them, I posted an announcement on social media. I did not explain why, I simply stated that I was getting divorced. My close friends and family are already aware of what is going on, and they are the only people I care about, so what others say is irrelevant. Life has been complicated for the past few weeks, but now that the divorce proceedings have begun and we will meet with a mediator in the coming days, I'm hoping to be able to put this behind me and finally move on. Update 3. Hello, David and I are planning to meet with the mediator tomorrow. It's strange knowing that I'll have to face him after nearly a month of no communication. As if I wasn't apprehensive and concerned enough before the meeting, Stacy sent me an email only half an hour ago. She stopped contacting me after 2.5 weeks, and I assumed she was no longer interested in chatting with me. I assumed this email was about how she intended to pay for her college fees, but to my amazement, she texted me a thorough apology, and this time it appeared sincere. She didn't say anything about the finances. Stacy stated she was really sorry for what she had done, confessing she had been selfish and hadn't considered how I would feel if I found out the truth. She realized she had crushed my heart much more than David had and wondered if she would ever be able to put things right with me. She did, however, mean it when she stated she had always looked up to me as a mother and truly loved me. She also stated that she was aware that David's presents were manipulative and that his affair partner had made it appear as if she was doing it on her own. However, she argued that it was due to manipulation rather than a desire to keep secrets from me. I'm not sure what to trust. Maybe she was manipulated, which is why she didn't say anything. She insisted on being confused, caught between knowing her father was wrong but not wanting to oppose him. In doing so, she betrayed me and had been conflicted for months. I want to believe her, I truly do, but with everything that has transpired I'm simply not sure. I was already uneasy and twitchy, but after receiving the email, I feel much strange about everything. I miss her dearly, as I do David, but I know I need to learn how to live life on my own. I've learned the hard way that I can't simply trust people, even my closest ones. I guess I'll have to stick to the no contact rule for now. I also acquired a new apartment and moved in. I've been living by myself for the past few weeks and it's been enjoyable. My friends and relatives pay me visits almost every other day to check on my well-being, which I believe is quite nice of them. I don't feel lonely because I'm usually with someone. However, I know these visits will not be as regular as they are today. I'm still working on accepting the idea that I'm a single lady. I've also started treatment. It will take some time for me to absorb and process everything that has transpired, but I am confident I will get there. I haven't communicated with David since our last mediation session, and while it hasn't been easy, it has been essential. In my last report, I mentioned Stacy's email in which she claimed to have been influenced. At the time, I couldn't bring myself to trust her because everything was so new. But just last week, I decided to respond to her email. She had been sending me additional emails about her life. It felt like a one-way street. She'd keep reaching out, and I'd shut her out. But every time she emailed me, my heart would shatter and I'd cry, even if nothing bad was occurring in her life. I genuinely missed her. So I contacted her and told her I missed her. There's nothing else. I still maintain that she will not receive the college fund, but she stated that she didn't mind and didn't deserve it anyhow. She informed me she chose a college close to home over her chosen school because she did not want to burden her father with student loans. Even if she had asked him to co-sign, he would have refused. He had made that obvious. Stacy noted that they will have to make do with the money they have, and that while David will assist as much as he can, she will also need to contribute by earning her way through college. She stated she was cool with it, or so she claimed. We've been emailing back and forth, and I informed her that I'd like to repair our friendship, but I need time. After everything that has transpired, I simply cannot digest it all right now. She understands and tells me to take as much time as I need, knowing she has abused my confidence. I'm not sure what will happen next, but I'm hoping for the best. Fingers crossed. My dad is trying to force my uncontrollable stepsister on my trip, so I cut him off. I, 17F, am graduating and my friends and I have already planned a trip to a cabin for the summer before we start college. I have been a babysitter since I was 13, so I have saved up a considerable amount of money. When I was 15, my dad got remarried about a year and a half after my mom passed away. My dad's wife had a 13-year-old daughter, and as soon as we moved in together they started to push her off on me and force us to do everything together. I don't like my stepsister. She's always throwing tantrums if she doesn't get what she wants. She's spoiled to the point that at my 16th birthday she got her own special cake so she wouldn't feel left out. And she also blew out the candles on my cake, and when I complained my dad told me it's time to grow up, being a sister is about sharing things. I told him I didn't have a sister, and I guess she overheard and she went on a rampage. The party was ruined. I distanced myself more from them after that. I'm forced to either take her with me to places or stay home with her if I can't take her, or my dad or dad's wife can't watch her or don't want to deal with her. Imagine everything that I said she does with my dad and his wife to a 15, 17-year-old me. I was forced to take her bowling with me and she would not stop trying to dig her hands in the part where the balls come out, and she tried running down the lane, so I had to take her home and my night was ruined. This happens a lot, but they don't care. I have tried to keep this trip a secret from her, but when I was in my room on the phone talking about it over pizza and music, I found out she snuck in and hid in the closet and was eavesdropping. She bursted out asking if she could come, and I told her no and to get out. She started stomping her feet and she ran out. My friends begged me to not invite her. My dad called me downstairs and asked if she could go because she could use a vacation, and I told him I'm not taking her. They can take her on a vacation, but I'm not watching her for almost 3 weeks alone. My dad's wife called me selfish and that my dad was paying for a portion of it anyway, and if Lily doesn't go then I don't get to go. I told her she doesn't get a say in any of this. She's not my mom, and to stop forcing her child on me when she created what she is. Lily starts yelling at me about not being a big sister and I don't want to spend time with her. I snap and tell her I don't. She ran away crying, and my dad said he won't pay for the rest of my trip if I don't take her. So I told him if he does that I will not be talking to him anymore, nor will I forgive him for it. He said I'm being dramatic and she isn't bad. So I grabbed a bag and went to my aunt's house, my mom's sister, and told her what happened, and she said she would put up what he took away, and when I go to college, I can stay with her. I told my dad what I was doing and he blew up at me and said I was being a brat and they're my family now and not my aunt. As far as I know, she does not have any disabilities. She's been to doctors and therapy. She's just insanely spoiled, and that's how she's always gotten her way when told no. The first time I met her, everyone agreed on Mexican except her, and she was yelling in the car for 10 minutes before she calmed down by her mom appeasing her. Then she goes back on her phone texting. If she does, then that explains why she acts that way, and I can take it that she can't help it, but I still shouldn't be forced to watch her 24/7's relevant comments. Commenter: your aunt is acting more of a family than your dad. I agree. See if you can live with your aunt now. Are you dependent on your dad for college? OOP. I am not. My mom left me money for 2 years. I decided to do an RN program and then go back once I work and save up more money. Commenter: if you are being truthful about Lily's behaviors, it sounds like she has some sort of emotional or intellectual impairment. Has she had a formal diagnosis? OOP. No, she is just extremely spoiled and acts like this to get her way. She knows she just has to cry a bit and stomp around and they'll give in. To another commenter: she does not have any mental problems. She's just spoiled. She's been to doctors and therapy. To a deleted and downvoted comment: I don't have nor did I want a sister. It's not even like they tried to slowly bring us together, they forced her on me. She constantly throws tantrums, so if any small thing is about me, she needs to be the center of attention. She may be a child, but she is not my child, and I shouldn't have had to become a parent because of my dad's wife's lack of parenting. Commenter: how far away from 18 are you? I would slowly start moving important things to your aunt's house and then move in the day you turn 18. Make sure you let your school know not to contact your dad anymore and that you are living with your aunt. Oopie. I turn 18 in September. I have read the comments and I'm making lists of everything I need to get and put at my aunt's house. On being the bigger person, I don't have to be a bigger person. I'm tired of being neglected and having her forced on me. I'm going on this trip without her, and if that ends up with me not talking to my dad anymore, so be it. He's the adult and parent here. Update post, August 30th, 2024. Almost 6 months later. I know a lot of people wanted an update to my last post, but I can't post a link so you can go to my profile to see it. The trip happened and I did not end up taking her like I said I wasn't. From the time that I posted that up until the time that I left, the household was very tense and awkward. I was not speaking to any of them. The only person I had to confide in and talk to my aunt, and I'm so grateful for her. My dad still thought that I was going to bring her on the trip, and I kept telling him that I'm not watching her and she is not coming with me. The morning of the trip we left at like 6 in the morning when he called me. I was already about 5 hours out, so he couldn't do anything. When I got back it was a lot of yelling and crying from me and my dad and his wife. She said that I left them in a tough position and they had to stay home because they couldn't get anyone to watch Lily. My dad and I had a serious talk for hours and he agreed that maybe we need to separate so we can work on our relationship. Which hurt me because I would have liked for him to tell me I can stay in my own home while we do it. But I did end up going to my aunt's house with no issues. My dad and I started family therapy with just the two of us. His wife was pretty upset. He was actually listening to me and was seeing where I was coming from. Right when we were getting good and building a better relationship, I came over for dinner and he asked if we could integrate his wife and Lily into therapy, and I told him that I had no interest in having a relationship with them. She called me a selfish C******, and that I need to be grateful that she let me stay with them after she moved in. I waited for my dad to correct her and he was pretty much silent, so I left and I haven't talked to him in almost a month. He keeps showing me that he will not be on my side. So, to wrap things up, the cabin trip was so much fun. I have never felt so free from a burden. The trip was in June and we were there for almost a month. We extended it. When I was packing for school, my dad came to visit and I guess his wife called and he had to lie about where he was because I guess she didn't want him to see me. So I told him, we don't need to have contact right now or continue therapy because it's clear which part of his family he cares more about. I don't know what's going to become of my dad and right now I don't care. I'm focused on school and studying to become a nurse. I don't want any negativity to ruin this experience, but I'd be lying if I said it doesn't hurt that I don't have a parent to experience this with, but my aunt says she is my surrogate mom and to share all my worries and success with her. I am currently in my first week of college and the amount of freedom I feel here is also so new. I am a little overwhelmed, but I am in an honors club. I also am in a creative writing book club and the friends I have made are so amazing. I am currently living on campus and I have never been better mentally. I am getting separate therapy to deal with my mom's death because that was never offered to me by my dad. My aunt has truly become a mother figure to me. Being 2 states away from her is really hard, but I can't wait for weekend visits and holiday visits. Also, another thing is that I'm going to be a godmother. My aunt was told at 22 that she would never be able to have kids and she is currently 4 months pregnant and I'm so excited because if anybody is going to be a good mother, I know it's going to be her. When she came to visit and tell me I think she saw I was a little worried. I told her I'm so excited and happy for her and nothing will change that, but she's the only family I have right now and don't want to get left behind like I did at home, and we cried and she promised me that she was filling in for my mom and she will be there for the rest of my life, whether I like it or not. I am planning the baby shower and I can't wait for the baby to be here. But yeah, that's it. Thank all for checking up on me and giving me encouraging words. Relevant comments. Commenter. I just don't understand how your dad doesn't see that Lily is a massive problem if they have to hire a babysitter at her age or being 15. And they were stuck at home with her as a result. OOP, he doesn't want to see it or he does and cares more about keeping his wife happy. Commenter. Also, what do you write about in this writers club? Oopie, bring in work you have written and share it. Write flash fiction from the same prompt. Write poems, watch videos or lectures about writing techniques, talk about writing contests or places to submit stories. We're talking about incorporating improv so we can be creative that way with our stories. Commenter. Downvoted. I feel like you should have set some better boundaries instead of just giving up. You need to lay it out for him. Do you really think she's good for your life if she's keeping you away from your daughter? Are you really a man and a father? If you're going to let a woman dictate what you can and can't do, I would tell him straight up you don't have the luxury of giving up because you made me. So I would appreciate if you get a goddamn backbone and start acting like it. OP. That's fair and I respect your opinion, but it's not my job to try and fix anything or set boundaries anymore. We did talk about it in therapy and he still tried to integrate them into the sessions when I have expressed hundreds of times I do not want that, so I'm done trying. I'm the child in this situation. I didn't tell my parents about my college money, then my dad stole it, causing an unforgivable betrayal that tore our family apart. Original. Am I the asshole for not telling my parents that I received money from my college? May 14, 2023, I, 20 years old, non-binary, live with my parents, in their 50s, and my 2 sisters, 20 years old and 19 years old. For as long as I can remember, my parents have had financial difficulties. For the past 4 months I have paid the entirety of my parents' rent. While I don't really make that much, I work 50 hours a week most weeks due to understaffing, so I get a pretty good paycheck. Plus most of the time I'm able to set aside some money for saving. However, these past months every one of my dad's paychecks, he makes the most money out of us all, have been garnished or been completely gone before he ever gets them. I have the misfortune of getting paid the exact same days as him. So the majority of my paychecks and all my savings have gone to paying for bills. 2 weeks ago my dad didn't get his paycheck and I ended up overdrawing my bank account $1,000. It was an accident as I had forgotten about a payment that I had made that had yet to show up. So when I got my paycheck on Friday it was just $100. Which my dad immediately asked for 80 of. I had told my parents I would be unable to help financially for the next 2 weeks, and again my dad didn't get his check, so my parents are scrambling to get money together to avoid our utilities being cut off. My college does this thing. I don't know if every college does this or not. Where you pay the full amount of your tuition and then at the end of the semester you get the amount of scholarships and financial aid paid to you. There is a deadline to get the money, however they hold it for you if you miss it. The most of the 2 years I have been going there I have forgotten to do that, so the money has been sitting around. I had missed the December deadline for the fall semester, but I got a jump on spring knowing that I would forget, and it is my last year at that college because I am transferring to another one. I promptly forgot about it. Well, on Friday I received an email from the bank system my college uses that I will be receiving the money. I had shrugged it off because most of the time I receive my money from that kind of stuff really late. So while the email said 1-2 business days, I was thinking it would be in June. So imagine my surprise when I see that day it was in my account. Also, considering that it has been sitting there for 2 years, it is a fair amount. I am by no means rich or anything, but it was certainly more than I had been expecting. I paid a bill that I just haven't been able to, and the majority is just sitting in my bank account. It's been 2 days and I haven't mentioned anything about the money. My parents never even knew I was getting money from my college due to my forgetfulness. I know that this money could help make sure that none of our utilities are cut off, but I can't seem to bring myself to tell them. I'm moving out soon, so this money could go towards giving me some breathing room or going to my classes this summer, so I really want to save it and not say anything, just let my parents assume that I only have $20 to my name. However, if the utilities get cut off, then I will be affected as well. I feel like such an asshole for not telling my parents about the money. I know that I'm just being selfish, but I am so tired of every penny I make going towards my family's bill. I know my mom feels extremely guilty every time they do this, but it is something they have to do to survive. So, am I the asshole? Edit. Since a lot of people are asking, here you go. My parents have a lot of payday loans from my childhood, other loans, and owe money to the state and IRS. My dad had at one point been accused of a gambling addiction. It runs in his family, and he had at one point had one. However, my parents have talked this out. My dad's company also has shitty communication, so we have no way of knowing when he is garnished and why until he gets paid. Everyone does work, but me and my dad make the most money. My mom works a minimum wage job. My sisters work part-time minimum wage jobs. My mom and 20-year sister do help pay bills. My little sister, however, does not. She is the type that has a little bit of money and goes wild. My parents pay for a lot of her stuff without ever seeing a dime for it. My parents are trying to stop that, however it is extremely difficult due to other factors that I will not get into on this post, as it has nothing to do with money. The reason I make a lot of money is because I'm a lifeguard, and due to the lack of them we are paid intensively. As many of you have suggested, I am moving out. I am moving to a different city this summer for classes. I honestly don't think I need to go to such extremes as some of you suggested. My bank account is separate from theirs. We do use the same bank though. My parents do not try to sneakily get my money, and the few times my dad has, I have called him out and berated him over it. My mom also feels extremely guilty about the entire situation, and as such I don't see her doing anything underhanded, and my dad, I have strict guidelines with him. I do have a ton of notifications for both my credit card and bank account, to the point of $1 getting spent I will know. Also, no, I will not be getting back the money that I have given to my parents. I am not even going to try. I'm not going to be another thing that they have to pay off. However, some of your suggestions I will follow. My parents are aware, and I will remind them when I leave that I will not be able to pay things when they leave, as I will be both reducing my hours at work and having my own bills to pay, such as school and the apartment. Relevant comment the _eternal_veggie NTA. You are technically paying for school yourself, right? The student loans and scholarships are all in your name, so that money is yours. Put it into savings, use it to buy textbooks next semester. If it's money left over from your student loans, you'll technically have to pay it back when you start paying your loans. So might as well use it as you please. I received money back from college for a few semesters, like $600/semester. But at that time my parents paid for my tuition, only $1,500/semester, community college, so I just paid them back that money since it was theirs anyway. But when I started paying for myself, I kept that money for myself. OOP, I pay for college out of pocket. I don't have student loans and no one else has paid for my tuition, so it is absolutely my money. Update 1, Wibite for going no contact with my dad and technically being responsible for my parents' divorce. May 27, 2023, posted 13 days later. So I, 20 NB, live with my parents and 2 sisters for now. I am moving out next month. So my dad decided to play a joke on me. He took my card and took out 90% of the money and my money out of my checking account. For those wondering about the college money I got from a previous post, it is in another savings account that is through another institution, so it is safe. He then put my card back in its original position and went to work. He did all of this around midnight. So I woke up in the morning to most of my money being gone. My first thought was that my dad took my card without asking, but my card was still in my wallet and where I left it. I had thought that someone had cloned my card and guessed my PIN. I sent off a quick text to my mom and called my bank. I spent a while doing that. I was so anxious, I was practically sobbing, and I'm not a person that really cries. That money was my deposit and rent for June. I then went into the living room and heard my mom arguing. I couldn't hear much, but I heard my mom exclaim, "What made you think it was a good idea?" Instantly dread filled me. I walked up to my parents' room. My mom was arguing with my dad on the phone. According to my dad, he found our cat playing with my card. He decided to take it and remove my money to teach me a lesson about leaving my card lying around and then go to work. My dad apologized to me and I just handed the phone back to my mom and stormed out of the room. My dad had pulled something like this to me before, except he took all of my money and then lost it. My dad claimed that he took the money to teach me a lesson for leaving my card around my family. Later on he told me in private that he took it because he knew I was lying about the amount of money I had. I had been saving that money for a medical thing, so I was hiding it because my family is always in a state of financial distress and he would ask for it if he knew that I had it and I was just done being in constant pain. Anyways, there were clear flaws in the story he told us. First, I had my card and it was in my wallet exactly where I left it. That was a whole separate trip from going to work. Also, neither my wallet or my card have any sign of damage. My dad works out of the city, which is a 1.5 car ride from where we live. My mom said that she will drive me to my dad's work where we will pick up the money. We don't trust him to have it till he is done working due to what happened last time. He protested, saying that that will use too much gas and that he will drive down instead, as that will use the same amount of gas. This ultimately leads to my mom practically having the confirmation that he has started gambling again. My dad had a gambling addiction when I was younger, but he got help for it and had been clean for a while. As in her mind, why else would he be so adamant that we not go to his work? He came home and returned all the money to me. Yes, I counted over and over again to make sure. He apologized and I said nothing. My mom said that he didn't sound sincere. My dad blew up on her, saying that he had apologized over the phone and that he was obviously sorry about what happened. He later on apologized to me about that, but I ignored it and he doesn't seem to be talking to my mom. My mom has told me that she is going to talk to a lawyer and she is absolutely torn up about this. There have been so many issues with their relationship this past year, but this seemed to be the straw that broke the camel's back to leave her 40-year marriage to my dad. My sisters don't know what is going on, or if they do not know the whole situation. I told her that once I move out that I might go no contact with him. My mom got all sad and said she doesn't blame me for wanting to after all that my dad put me through. I'm honestly emotionally drained and dreading calling back my bank. My mom had this great weekend planned for us, but now there is an overwhelming feeling of dread and tension over everything. I was actually going to finally do something for myself that I had finally worked up the nerve to ask my mom about, but that had to be cancelled. Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm moving out soon, I would have called my friend and moved out today. I'm just done with my dad in this situation. At the same time, I feel such an overwhelming guilt. I know that I did the right thing. That I had to tell my mom and protect myself financially, but I don't know. I feel responsible for my parents separating, and me and my mom are the only ones that know that, even though my dad made his choice. The fact that I love my dad and I still want a close relationship with him like I never had yet. I can't imagine ever talking to him after he put me through all this. I also feel like I'm too emotional and hasty to make these decisions, as all of this happened today. Maybe I just need confirmation that I'm doing the right thing. So Wibta, another relevant comment. Snowflake 100000000 NTA. Your dad stole from you. Change your PIN number and passwords on everything. OOPO, absolutely. I reached out to my bank thinking that someone copied my card before I found out it was my dad. I am getting a new PIN, new card, and account information. Everything is being changed. Update 2, update, Wibta for going no contact with my dad and technically being responsible for my parents' divorce, June 11, 2023, posted 15 days later. I know it's been 2 weeks since my last post, but a lot has happened since then. My parents are getting a divorce. I have mixed feelings about this. My mom has started to track my dad. I know invasion of privacy, but it was the only way to know for sure. Multiple times the tracker has put him at a casino when he claims he's working. My mom has figured that he has been getting his paycheck 2 days early and not telling anyone. My mom called a lawyer last Wednesday to talk about her next move. My dad isn't fighting it, which is honestly destroying my mom. Yesterday we got an eviction notice that we have to be out by the end of the month. This has happened before, but my dad has always explained it away. Apparently my dad, hasn't paid the rent in 4 months. My dad hasn't said anything about this. He now knows we are all seeing through him and his act. My mom and younger sister are going to live with my maternal grandparents. Me and my other sister are moving out to our own apartment at the end of the week. This makes me extremely angry. Because my parents got the money for me to pay for the rent. Instead, it was going to my dad's gambling. I did a calculation for how much I gave them this year and I am horrified. It is over $10,000. All my savings for college, so many of my paychecks that I have given up to help my family have actually gone to my dad's gambling addiction. I feel so used and like a fool. I feel so betrayed. My mom has told me that she doesn't want me to go no contact with my dad. She wants to hold family dinners once everything has settled down and she has a place and she is going to invite my dad. My mom still loves my dad and keeps saying that he is sick. I know this, I know he isn't well. That he has lost control, but I don't know if I can keep him in my life. He used me and manipulated me. I feel less like his child and more like his walking bank account. He broke our family, and even if it is because he's sick, I don't know if I can put it past me. I know that it would destroy my mom to cut my dad out of my life. I know you guys said I'm not the in my last post, but I still feel like one. I might add more later as I have to go to work. Edit, adding some details I forgot about in a rush to go to work. One of the reasons that my mom is going to do these dinners is to give my dad a reason to get help. I honestly don't think that will work. First, my father is rarely with us or does stuff when he lives with us. I doubt he will go. Second, if the looming threat of divorce didn't kick him into gear, I don't think weekly dinners will. I have a really good relationship with my mom, so I do want to go to those dinners to spend time with her. But I don't know if I can face my dad if he decides to come. My mom wants me to have a good relationship with my dad, which is why she doesn't want me to go no contact with him. Also, some of it is likely her guilt for the situation and the fact I tend to be the person she goes to for help. Also, a lot of you have been confused by me being responsible for their divorce. Like I said, it was an update to a post that I had made previously. If you want all the information, go look at that post, but the rundown is I woke up and saw that someone stole my money. I told my mom and she figured out it was my dad. My mom realized that she needs to divorce my dad due to him lying about what happened. My mom has never told me that any of this was my fault. It was how I was feeling at the moment. I have since gotten over that guilt. Many of you have said that I should try to get the money back from my dad. I'm not sure. I made peace not getting the money back. I'm not going to take him to court. My life is already crazy without worrying about court and my dad's gambling addiction. Not to mention I really don't have proof that I could show the court, as I just gave the money to my mom. I never made any comments digitally what the money's for, so it will absolutely fall apart and become a he said they said. And honestly, I don't want to deal with it. I just want to move past this. Update 3, am I the asshole for not wanting my dad to live with me? July 1st, 2023, posted 20 days later. So I, NB20, live in my own apartment with my sister, 20, and roommate, M19. We moved in about 2 weeks ago. Due to events in one of my previous posts, me and her are the only ones in my family not homeless. My dad has been living in his car and staying in hotels when able. My dad has recently been hospitalized for a multitude of reasons. No, I won't go into detail. He is going to be released from some of the medical advice that is going to be given to my dad he can't follow due to being homeless. My parents haven't mentioned the fact that my dad's homeless or that they are in the middle of a divorce to the hospital. My mom is scared of what that would mean for him. My mom has asked me to talk to my roommates to see how they feel about my dad living with us temporarily. I agreed to it, but I honestly don't want to have him. This might be selfish, but he would be in my room due to the fact he works at night. He won't do my sister's room because her room is hyper-feminine and is only separated by a curtain from the living room. As I'm the one with an actual room, he would be sleeping in my room. Our schedules are pretty reversed, so we would never see each other except on my days off, but I really hate this idea. In our previous house, I had to share my room with my mom because of her working from home. This meant that whenever someone felt like it, they would barge into my room. I finally have my own space that no one could barge into, and not even 2 weeks later it might be stripped from me. Not to mention I am currently searching for another job due to the fact that I have moved to another city and no longer want to commute 3 hours each way, and I have a couple phone interviews lined up for my days off, and I can't go into the living room due to my roommates also having those days off, and I don't like talking on the phone in public. My dad has also not acknowledged that he has done anything wrong. I am also still pissed at him. He can't go with my mom and other sister due to my maternal grandparents hating his guts at the moment. He can't ask any of his family due to the fact that they are abusive, and he doesn't want to admit how bad his situation has gotten. So this just leaves me and my sister. My dad already doesn't like our roommate due to sexism and toxic masculinity. I don't think he will act in any way that will show it, but I really don't want to place him in a situation where he might have to deal with that. I have yet to tell my roommates as they had already left when my mom asked, and I don't want to ruin their event or have this conversation over text. I'm very tempted to pay out all the reasons it would be a bad idea for them, so they agree that we can't do it, so I'm not the but I don't like the idea of manipulating them. My mom said that my dad probably won't accept the offer, but I'm not sure I can make the offer. Also, hotels are not an option due to the fact none of us have the money for them, and my dad will likely be paying off this trip for a while. I honestly feel like either way I'm screwed. So am I the asshole? Even another relevant comment. Delete. This sounds way too big for Reddit to solve. Unfortunately Reddit is my only solution cause I have no one to talk to about this situation. Update 4. Am I the asshole for not sending my dad a happy birthday text? October 6, 2023. Posted 3-4 months later. So yesterday was my dad's birthday. I'm 60. I, be 20, have been pretty much no contact with him since my last post about him, only really seeing him here and there. My dad has reached out to me once but I didn't respond. Never once has he apologized for what he has done. For the past week I had been debating if I should send him the above text. No matter what I decided, I wasn't going to get him anything after all the money he took from me. Then on Wednesday my phone got stolen. I spent most of Wednesday and yesterday trying to find it and come up with solutions so that I can do all the things I need to do. I thought that was the answer to texting my dad. Yesterday I got a new phone and was talking to my mom. She texts me that I need to send my dad a text. She always reminds me to send birthday and holiday texts as I'm notorious for forgetting to. I said I will later as I still hadn't decided if I was going to. She then told me that she gave my dad $20 for me. I was shocked. She said all my siblings agreed to send him $20 for a hotel room. We all know he will probably gamble it away. I had never agreed due to my stolen phone. I was pretty much out of contact, but I had still talked to her through my roommates. She also could have waited and asked if I was okay with it, which I would have said no. I don't think my mom will ask for the 20, she just seemed to do it in my name. Regardless, I was pissed. So I didn't text my dad because I wanted to make sure he was aware that I haven't forgiven him and that we don't have a relationship anymore. I also did it to spite my mom for putting my name on a gift I never agreed to. I was so sure of it yesterday, but now I think I might have just been petty. My stepmom left my dad after I refused to let her walk me down the aisle, and now he has a shocking confession before my wedding. I'm Lily, a 28-year-old woman who will marry her fiancé Richard, a 30-year-old man, in 3 months. To comprehend my current circumstances, I must return to my childhood. My parents, Claire, 53F, and Tom, 55M, met at college and married young. They had me when they were both 25, and for the first 10 years of my existence, we seemed like the ideal family. I remember spending weekends at my grandparents' lake house, where Dad taught me how to fish while Mom made lunches. Every Friday, we had family game night, and my parents took turns reading me bedtime stories. It wasn't perfect, they argued like any couple, but I always felt loved and secure. Everything changed when I was 10. Dad began working late more frequently, and Mom appeared increasingly tense and sad. I overheard arguments about someone named Tanya, but I had no idea what was going on. Then, one day, I returned home from school to find Mom crying in the kitchen. She sat me down and told me that Dad had an affair with his coworker, Tanya, 48F, and they were getting divorced. The following few months were a jumble of tears, conflicts, and bewilderment. Dad moved out, and I remember being furious with him for hurting Mom and splitting up our family. The divorce was messy and traumatic. There were intense debates over custody and property partition. I recall sitting outside the courtroom during one of their sessions, feeling disoriented and terrified. In the end, Mom received primary custody, with Dad receiving visits every other weekend. At first, I was hesitant to spend time with Dad. I was angry and sad, and I did not want to leave Mom alone. Mom, despite her own anguish, pushed me to give Dad another chance. She informed me, "Your father made a mistake, but he still loves you. It's fine to adore him too." Gradually, I began to like spending weekends with Dad. He'd take me to the movies, show me how to cook, badly, and we'd have lengthy discussions about school and my friends. Things became more problematic when Dad declared 2 years after the divorce that he was marrying Tanya. Tanya and I met for the first time at a dinner Dad had arranged. She appeared pleasant enough, bringing me a gift, a diary with my name embossed on it, and inquiring about my interests. But I couldn't get rid of the idea that she was the reason my family had come apart. Tanya worked hard to establish a bond with me after Dad and Tanya married. She was constantly buying me gifts, clothes, books, art supplies, and recommending mother-daughter activities such as spa days or cooking classes. However, her efforts felt forced to me, and I was never comfortable around her. Part of it was out of loyalty to my mother, and part of it was because Tanya appeared to be attempting to replace her. As I approached adolescence, my connection with Dad and Tanya deteriorated. They would frequently make disparaging remarks about Mom, such as, "It's a shame your mother is so bitter," or, "If only your mother could move on like we have." These statements bothered me because I understood how hard Mom worked to co-parent harmoniously. My mother, on the other hand, never spoke negatively about Dad or Tanya in front of me. She listened to my complaints but always pushed me to give them another shot. "They're not perfect," she'd continue, "but they try. It's acceptable to have many relationships with different people in your life." Tanya became pregnant when I was 16 years old. Dad was overjoyed, continually mentioning how happy he was to have a real family, now. Those words struck deep because they made me feel like I wasn't enough for him. Like I was a relic of his past rather than an important part of his new existence. Tanya had a miscarriage at 20 weeks. It was a tough time for them, and I recall feeling a combination of anguish for their loss and guilty relief that I would not be replaced by a new baby. Dad informed me that Tanya would require additional love and support from me, which put a lot of strain on me at a time when I was already dealing with usual teenage concerns and the lingering consequences from the divorce. Tanya's attachment to me grew stronger following the miscarriage. She began introducing me to everyone as her daughter, which made me very uncomfortable. She also started urging me to call her Mom, something I flatly refused to do. This resulted in several arguments, with Dad always siding with Tanya and accusing me of being insensitive to her feelings. During this time, my relationship with my mother remained solid. She was my rock, always willing to listen without judgment and provide support without pressuring. She encouraged me to pursue my interests, which led to me joining the school newspaper and later studying journalism in college. I met Richard in college. We were both writing for the campus paper and bonded over our shared interest in investigative reporting. Richard's family was much easier than mine. His parents were still happily married and he had 2 younger siblings. I was initially cautious to let him inside my delicate family relationships, but his tolerance and understanding allowed me to open up. All of these previous concerns have finally come to a head as we prepare our wedding. I have chosen to ask my mother to walk me down the aisle. She's been my steadfast supporter, role model, and greatest friend. When I told Dad and Tanya about my decision, Tanya fell into tears and Dad became enraged. They told me I was being selfish and that Tanya should also lead me down the aisle because she had been in my life for so long. I refused, stating that my mother is my soul mother and the person I want at my side on my wedding day. This sparked a heated dispute, with Dad threatening not to attend the wedding if Tanya wasn't given a particular position. He mentioned all the times Tanya tried to be there for me, the presents she bought, the activities she planned, but to me, such things pale in contrast to my mother's unwavering love and support. Tanya blamed me of never giving her a chance and claimed that after all these years, she considered me her own daughter. She brought up her miscarriage again, expressing how difficult it had been to lose a baby and then have her stepdaughter reject her. I understand that the miscarriage was difficult for her, but I don't think it's appropriate to use it as emotional leverage against me. I'm sticking to my decision, but now I'm wondering if I'm being too severe. Richard fully supports me, saying that it is our wedding and we should do whatever feels right to us. However, some of my extended family members believe I should make a compromise to keep the peace. Part of me feels bad for hurting Tanya's feelings, but a larger part of me is upset that Dad and Tanya are attempting to make my wedding about them. I've spent years attempting to negotiate this blended family arrangement, often at the price of my own emotions. I want my wedding day to be a celebration of love, not a battleground for old family feuds. Am I an asshole for refusing to have my stepmother lead me down the aisle? Should I stick to my decision or seek a compromise? Update 1. It's been a month since my previous post, and a lot has changed. First and foremost, I'd want to thank everyone for their encouraging words. They greatly increased my confidence in my decision. After the wedding quarrel, my father and Tanya stopped communicating to me for a few weeks. It was a stressful situation, and I found myself continually checking my phone, half expecting and half fearing a message from them. Richard was quite helpful at this time, telling me that it was acceptable to prioritize my own sentiments and that I was not responsible for controlling their emotions. Tanya called me unexpectedly, weeping. She apologized for pressing me throughout the years and stated that she simply wanted to be close to me. Her voice sounded truly sorry, and for a little time, I felt a ray of optimism that we might be able to go forward. She asked if we could meet for coffee to talk things over, and after some hesitation, I accepted, thinking it would be a good opportunity to clear the air before the wedding. We met in a neighborhood cafe that I used to frequent in college. It was weird to be seated across from Tanya in a setting that brought back memories of study sessions with friends and early dates with Richard. At first, everything appeared to be going well. Tanya was surprisingly sympathetic, even saying she accepted my choice to have my mother follow me down the aisle. She told my father some anecdotes about her own wedding, including how scared she was and how she wished she had a closer relationship with her stepmother. I found myself softening slightly, viewing her as a person with her own troubles and fears rather than the woman who had ended my parents' marriage. However, things took a turn when she mentioned that she and my father were thinking about renewing their vows next year. At first, I assumed she was just discussing their plans, but then she dropped a bombshell. She offered that I walk her down the aisle at their vow renewal ceremony to balance things out. This suggestion stunned me. It felt like she was attempting to establish a quid pro quo, as if my wedding and their vow renewal were somehow interchangeable. I explained that a daughter's wedding is not the same as a vow renewal. Tanya became agitated and accused me of not giving her a chance. She mentioned the miscarriage again, explaining how difficult it had been and how she had hoped that having a kid would bring our family closer together. She stated that losing the baby was especially devastating since she believed she had missed her chance to actually be a mother. I attempted to be empathetic, recalling how awful that time had been for everyone, but I also stated that her death, while tragic, did not require me to regard her as my mother. I said that I had my own complicated thoughts at the time, feeling both sad for their loss and pleased that I would not be replaced. The conversation rapidly degenerated from there. Tanya accused me of being cold-hearted and ungrateful for everything she had attempted to do for me over time. She mentioned every gift she had ever given me and every outing she had planned, as if keeping track of her attempts at motherhood. I emphasized that genuine connection and respect for limits are what sustain relationships, not gifts and forced outings. In the heat of the moment, I uttered something I had been keeping quiet for years. I informed Tanya that, while I was sad for her loss, I was tired of her using the miscarriage as emotional leverage. I said it wasn't fair to put the responsibility of her unfulfilled maternal urges on me, especially when I was only a teenager trying to deal with my own familial tragedy. Tanya burst into tears and walked out of the cafe, leaving me sitting there, feeling guilty, angry, and relieved that I had finally spoken my actual sentiments. As I sat there trying to digest what had just transpired, I couldn't help but think about how this cafe, which had once held wonderful memories, would now be forever connected with this awful confrontation. My father called me later that evening, enraged. He claimed I had been harsh to Tanya and owed her an apology. He accused me of being selfish and ungrateful, claiming that Tanya had always wanted to love me. When I tried to explain my side of the story, he interrupted me, stating that if I couldn't accept Tanya as my mother, perhaps I shouldn't consider him my father anymore. Those remarks struck me hard. Despite our disagreements throughout the years, I never questioned that my father loved me. But in that moment it felt like he was choosing Tanya above me, just like he had done years before when he abandoned our family for her. I am hurt and outraged, but I am also more certain than ever in my decision. Richard has been wonderfully supportive throughout this process, hugging me when I cry and assuring me that I have every right to set boundaries. We're going forward with our wedding plans, aiming to create a day that celebrates our love and the family we're starting together. My mother has also been fantastic. When I told her what had happened, she listened without judgment and offered consolation without attempting to influence my decision. She reminded me that family connections are complex and that it is acceptable to prioritize my own emotional well-being. After a few days of thought, I've decided to send my father and Tanya a farewell message. In it, I intend to express my emotions and boundaries clearly. I want to make it clear that, while I am open to having a connection with them, it must be on terms that respect my sentiments and my relationship with my mother. I'll tell them that if they can't accept it, they won't be invited to the wedding. As I sit here writing this message, I can't help but feel a mixture of loss and relief. It isn't the relationship I hope I could have with my father and stepmother, but it's the healthiest I can provide right now. Am I doing the right thing, or am I being overly harsh and potentially excluding them from this key day in my life? Update 2. Another month has passed, and things have only gotten more confusing. After I wrote a message to my father and Tanya describing my feelings and boundaries, I didn't hear from them for a few weeks. The silence provided both relief and anxiety. I tried to concentrate on wedding planning, finalizing the menu, having clothing fittings with my mother and working on our vows with Richard, but the unresolved problem with my father and Tanya remained in the back of my mind. Then, last Saturday, my father arrived to my flat unannounced. I was in the process of addressing invitations with Richard when the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I was surprised to see my father standing there, fatigued and upset. I invited him in, more by surprise than anything else. Richard, sensing the tension, excused himself to give us some peace, but not before gently caressing my hand. When we were alone, Dad broke down. He informed me that Tanya had left him. Tanya apparently had a breakdown following our disagreement at the coffee shop and my message. She informed my father she couldn't take the rejection longer and needed to find herself. She packed her luggage and left to reside with her sister in another state. As I listened to my father pour out his heart, I was overcome with emotion. Part of me felt justified. Hadn't I been warning Tanya for years that her relationship to me was unhealthy? But another part of me felt guilty. Had my inability to accept her as a mother figure truly caused so much pain? Dad was a mess, alternately apologizing to me and blaming me for Tanya's departure. He explained that he didn't know how to solve things and asked if I would try family therapy with him and Tanya. The concept made me uncomfortable. I told him I wasn't prepared for that, especially since Tanya had left him and I wasn't sure where we all stood. Then my father revealed another bombshell. He admitted that years ago, when Tanya miscarried, they had been trying for a baby because Tanya believed it would help me accept her as a mother figure. He admitted that they were wrong to try to replace me or push a mother-daughter bond. This information surprised me. It explained a lot about their behavior over the years, including the increased pressure to bond with Tanya, the continuous comparisons to a real family, and the guilt-tripping following the miscarriage. However, it also made me angry. I felt manipulated, like my feelings had been ignored in their effort to build their ideal family. I told my father I needed time to comprehend everything and begged him to go. I was overwhelmed as I closed the door behind him. I contacted my mom because I needed her calm presence and smart guidance. She listened attentively as I explained everything, then suggested that I take some time to seriously consider what I want my relationship with my father and Tanya to look like in the future. Now I'm feeling conflicted. On the one hand, I feel vindicated in my decision to maintain boundaries with Tanya. Her leaving my father appears to demonstrate that her attachment to me was motivated more by her selfish desires than real concern for me. On the other side, I feel horrible for my father, who appears truly sorry and bewildered. Richard believes I should keep my boundaries, but be open to repairing a connection with my father over time. He pointed out that, while my father's confession regarding the pregnancy attempt was hard to hear, it was also a step forward in honesty that we had not experienced previously. My mother, when I told her what had transpired, was surprisingly sympathetic to my father. She believes that when individuals are thirsty for affection and acceptance, they can make serious blunders. She reminded me of how young my father was when they had me, and how he may have been attempting to recreate the family life he believed he had lost. The wedding is now only a month away, and I'm not sure what to do about my father's invitation. Should I still invite him, giving him the opportunity to be a part of this special day? Should I contact Tanya now that I understand her motivations? Should I focus on my own happiness while they deal with their problems? As I sit here, staring at the stack of unsent invites, I understand that this decision is about more than the wedding. It's about the future relationship I desire with my father and whether Tanya has a role in my life. It's about striking a balance between compassion and self-protection, as well as determining what forgiveness looks like in a circumstance where the wounds are deep. Update 3. The wedding was last weekend, and I wanted to provide a last update on how everything worked out. After considerable thought and several long conversations with Richard and my mother, I decided to keep my father's invitation to the wedding open, but I made it plain that it was only for him and not Tanya. I sent him a long email explaining my decision. I informed him that I was willing to work on our relationship, but it would take time, and that he needed to respect my boundaries. I also conveyed my wish that he would attend the wedding to celebrate this special day in my life, but I understood if he felt unable to attend without Tanya. To my amazement, my father accepted these terms. He responded to my email again, apologizing for everything and expressing his want to be present on my wedding day. He also stated that he and Tanya were still separated, and that he was beginning to see how much their relationship had influenced me over the years. Last-minute preparations dominated the week leading up to the wedding. My mother was an unwavering source of support, assisting with everything from floral arrangements to easing my pre-wedding nerves. Richard's family visited from out of town, and witnessing how well they got along with my mother made me happy for the loving, drama-free family I would marry into. On the wedding day, I was a ball of nervousness and excitement as my mother helped me into my dress. We both shed tears as she told me how proud she was of the lady I'd become and how glad she was that Richard and I had met. It was a memory I'll keep forever. The ceremony was amazing. Walking down the aisle with my mother by my side felt just beautiful. I noticed my father seated in one of the front rows, appearing distraught yet smiling when our gazes met. Richard's reaction when he saw me go down the aisle was all I had hoped for and more. During the reception, I was busy welcoming visitors and enjoying the festivities with Richard, but I noticed my father looking sad and lonely at moments. He put on a brave face whenever he noticed me gazing. To my amazement, he had a cordial chat with my mother at one point. They were never going to be friends, but the fact that they could be in the same room without causing tension was a relief. After the wedding, after things had settled down a little, my father and I had a long conversation. He apologized once more for everything and promised to try harder to be a good father. He recognized that he had made numerous mistakes, particularly in attempting to force a connection between Tanya and myself. He also informed me that Tanya had decided to stay with her sister indefinitely, and they were discussing a trial separation. I'm cautiously enthusiastic about mending my relationship with my father. We've decided to start with monthly dinners for just the two of us to reconnect without pressure. It won't be easy, and there'll be a lot of pain to deal with, but I'm willing to try. I chose not to contact Tanya right now. I believe we both require time and space to recover and move forward. Maybe eventually we'll be able to talk about everything that happened, but for now, I'm focused on my new life with Richard and mending my relationship with my father. This entire experience has been a roller coaster, but I'm glad I held my ground. I'm starting my married life with a better awareness of my family dynamics and more firm limits. The wedding proved to be more than simply a celebration of my love for Richard. It also marked a fresh beginning in my relationship with my parents. Richard and I are finally settling into married life, and it feels great to face the future together, knowing we can deal with anything that comes our way. We are planning a belated honeymoon to Japan next month, which we are both looking forward to. Thank you to everyone who helped me on this journey. Your guidance and encouragement helped me get through this terrible situation and begin this new chapter in my life on a positive note. It won't be easy, and there'll be a lot of pain to deal with, but I'm willing to try. My fiancé demanded I put his family first, even at the cost of my sister's health. Now I'm reconsidering everything. Original post, October 25th, 2023. Throwaway, as my work friends are on my main and they don't know this is going on. Also, it is obligatory that this is on mobile, so spelling and grammar will be poor. This is a long one, but I'll try and keep it as short as possible. I, 28F, got engaged to my partner of 7 years, Rob, 29M, in May. Both sides of our family were really happy about this, and we had a big family meal 2 weeks after getting engaged. His brother lives 250 miles away and couldn't get here for that meal, so we decided to have a meal just for his family in late June when his brother would be back for the weekend. This weekend was arranged long before we got engaged, so he wasn't back just for the meal. Earlier this year, my sister Kim, 32F, got a serious eye infection that very quickly turned into an ulcer, which scarred her cornea and left it at a high risk of a perforation. She needed a corneal graft, but her surgeon was away for 4 weeks, so she was going to have to wait until he got back to have it. However, her eye didn't hold, and it perforated the day I was supposed to be going to the family meal with ours brother. Kim's wife was at work and had her phone turned off, and our mom was away with our stepdad. So when Kim called me to let me know what was happening, I knew she would be at the hospital on her own. I immediately talked to my boss and he let me go early so Kim wasn't on her own. I texted Rob to let him know what was going on, and he texted me back to send Kim his love and to remind me about the meal that night. I ignored the comment about the meal as it was the last thing on my mind. Once I got to the hospital, I was taken back into a room where Kim was, to be greeted by 3 doctors and 2 nurses rushing around trying to help Kim. I was then informed that she needed to have an emergency operation to have her eye glued or else she would lose it. The problem was that they didn't have a surgeon at that hospital that could do it, and she needed to go to another hospital an hour and a half away. They asked if she would need transportation or if I could take her. I said I would take her. Once we got to the other hospital, we were told that she would be having the operation at 5:30 p.m. I knew then that I wouldn't make dinner and text Rob to let him know. He flipped out and basically told me to leave Kim at the hospital and have her wife pick her up after the op was done. At this point, I still hadn't been able to get a hold of Kim's wife. I told him that wasn't going to happen and that he was out of order to even ask me to do that. I then texted his mom and told her what was going on. She was really supportive and told me to stay with Kim and let her know how the op goes. A dinner can be rescheduled. Kim's health can't. I also spoke with his brother, who was equally understanding. I stayed with Kim. Her operation was a success and I got her back home about 9 p.m. Her wife had ordered some Chinese and offered me some, which I happily accepted as I hadn't eaten since lunch. With that, I didn't get home till about 11 p.m. and Rob was already asleep. Rob was very short with me for days after, and we ended up having a huge fight where he told me that I should have put his brother and family before Kim. He said he was embarrassed to go to the meal without me. I responded that I was embarrassed he thought I would put a meal before my sister's health. This led to another week of awkwardness between us before we finally sat down and we sorted it out. Or so I thought. 8 weeks ago, Kim got her graft, and so far everything is going really well with it. On Saturday, his brother was here, so we went out for dinner with his family. His family were all asking about how Kim was doing, and I showed them a picture of the stitches in her eye. I thought that everything had gone really well until we got home and he got really angry, saying that I shouldn't have brought up Kim's health issues and I shouldn't have shown them the picture. I argued that they'd asked about her and asked to see the picture. It ended with him telling me that I needed to put him and his family before Kim or else we weren't going to work. His family will come before mine once we are married, so I should get used to it. I went upstairs and packed a bag. I'm now at my mom's house and he's been bombarding me with texts and calls since I left. I do love him, but I will never put his family above my own family's health. I feel like he's expecting me to spend every holiday with his family and put their wants above my family needs, which won't happen. I'm very close to my sister and my mom. That's not going to change. So I don't really know how to move forward or if I even want to. Has anyone experienced anything like this before? If so, how did you deal with it? TLDR. My fiancé got mad that I missed dinner with his family because my sister needed emergency surgery and I was the only one available to take her. He is now insisting that I put his family before my own. I don't know how to move forward with him. Edit. For some reason it won't let me do a full update post even on my own page, so I'm just going to add it to here. Thank you so much for everyone that commented. I replied to as many as I could, but I read all of them. Warning, this is going to be longer than the original post. A lot has happened. TLDR. For those that just want a quick update, I left him and he's out of my house. His mom is seriously pissed at him and his brother has gone no contact with him for the foreseeable future. For those that want a longer version. Once I decided to end things with him, I knew that the main issue would be getting him out of my house. I own the house outright. My grandma died 5 years ago and left her house to my mom, who sold it and split the money between me and my sister. I then bought my house with that money about a year after she died. I got in touch with my stepdad's friend, who was a landlord the day after I wrote my original post, who then put me in touch with his solicitor. He didn't have time to see me in person that day, but we did have a phone call where he gave me my options. In the UK we have something called a Section 8 notice. This is a 14-day eviction notice and the solicitor said this would be the quickest way to get him out. However, he could try and contest it if he wanted to, which would lead to court dates and could take months. I asked him to draw up the notice and date it for Friday, the next day. I'd already made the decision to end things with him after work on Friday, so that he could have the weekend to sort through his emotions before work on Monday. On Friday morning I texted Rob and asked him to meet with me at our local pub after work. He quickly agreed. Not only is the pub a public space, but my stepdad and a few of his work friends go in there every Friday after work for a few pints, so I knew he would be there to step in if I needed him. Thank you for suggesting this, Redditors. I also picked up the eviction notice on my lunch break, so I was ready to give it to him. Cost £250 but was worth it. When I got to the pub, Rob was already there and my stepdad was standing at the bar with his workmates. I sat down with Rob and got straight to the point. I told him that it was over. I couldn't be with someone who didn't give me any support when I was going through one of the scariest moments of my life and expected me to drop my family for him. It didn't matter what excuses he could come up with. I wasn't interested. I'd made up my mind and we were done. He stared at me in shock for what felt like an hour but was probably only a minute or so. He then started saying I couldn't be serious. We'd been together for 7 years and I was throwing it all away. I could never find another guy like him. I responded to the last comment with, I don't want a guy like you. That's why I'm ending it. I need someone who will support me when times get tough, not get annoyed that the world isn't bowing down to what he wants. I then handed him an envelope with the eviction notice in and my engagement ring. I told him I was giving him a few weeks to find a place and be out of my house. Then I stood up and walked over to my stepdad, who had bought me a much-needed drink, and stayed with him until my ex left, still looking in shock. I knew he wouldn't approach me whilst I was with my stepdad, as he has always been a little scared of him. This is obviously a very condensed version of what happened. Once I got back to my mom's house, I had one single text from him saying he wasn't moving out and was going to contest the eviction until I'd come to my senses and got back with him. We are not over, was how he ended the text. I just turned my phone off and decided to deal with the legal side of things on Monday. There was nothing else I could do. Saturday morning I woke up and turned my phone back on and had another text from him saying that he would move out if I paid him £10,000, as that's what he'd paid towards bills whilst he had lived at the house. He paid for half the electric, gas, Wi-Fi and Sky package. Note, the Sky package is only as expensive as it is because he has to have every sports channel known to man, so his half literally just paid for the sports channels. I'd already asked the solicitor about this though, and he'd assured me that I didn't owe him any money as he hadn't contributed to a mortgage or any renovations of the house. It was just general expenses. He also knew that I don't have £10,000 just lying around. Let's say I was irritated by this and decided to ring his mom to see if she could talk some sense into him. I'll call his mom Sandra to make it easier. She was appalled by what I told her and said she would speak to him. She called me back about an hour later and asked me to meet her at the house. Rob was on an away day to watch his football team play and wouldn't be back till about 10 p.m. so I knew he wasn't there. I met her at the house with Kim, and Sandra said that Rob's brother was on his way back home and they would have Rob out by the following afternoon. She hadn't even spoken to Rob, just his brother, but she promised he would be out. Sandra then asked me to walk her through the house showing her exactly what was his and what wasn't so he didn't take anything that didn't belong to him. The next morning I got a text from Rob calling me all the names under the sun for getting his mom and brother involved. I blocked him and a couple of hours later, Sandra texted me to let me know he was out and staying with her. I thanked her and she told me that she would like to stay in contact and I happily agreed to this. I went back to my house after work on Monday, changed the alarm code and my stepdad changed all the locks for me. My stepdad is also arranging for a friend of his to install cameras around the outside of the house. This will be done over the weekend. Sandra rang me on Tuesday asking if we could meet up as she had some things she wanted me to know. So we met for lunch that day. It was at this time that she told me her ex was a controlling a-hole who was incredibly selfish and the selfishness was what she had seen in Rob for so long. That's why she had commented on him being like his father, but she had hoped that was the extent of Rob's attitude and he hadn't picked up his dad's controlling behavior, which to be fair, he hadn't up until this whole episode. She had left Rob's dad after he had punched Rob's brother in the face when he was 14 and Rob was 10. He had never laid a hand on her or their sons before, but one time was enough and she left with the boys. To her knowledge her ex had never reached out to speak to Rob or his brother and they hadn't spoken to their father in years. I didn't know any of this, all I had been told was that their dad wasn't in the picture and hadn't been for a long time, but Sandra had thought I knew and that's why she hadn't told me before. However, she had found out on Sunday night that Rob was back in contact with his father and had been for the past year. His dad had been putting lots of thoughts into Rob's head about how he is the man of the house and his family is all that matters. This had fed into Rob's selfish tendencies and had amplified them tenfold. Sandra said that she had told him to find somewhere else to stay ASAP as she couldn't even look him in the face. Then Rob and his brother had a huge argument that ended with his brother telling him that as long as Rob is in touch with their dad, then he will have zero contact with him. Even going so far as to tell him to spend Christmas with their dad because Sandra is going to his house and Rob isn't welcome. When Sandra took Rob's brother's side in all this, Rob flew into a rage and said he would move in with his dad. He then left the house, but came back a couple of hours later looking like he'd been crying. Turns out that his dad doesn't want him living with him and basically said he could be on the streets for all he cares. He's not putting a roof over a grown man's head. Sandra thinks that Rob is now starting to realize everything he has lost due to him listening to his dad and has seen his dad's true colors. Sandra is incredibly disappointed in him, but he's her son so she is trying to be there for him as best as she can. However, she still wants him out as she doesn't trust him anymore. His brother still won't have anything to do with him. She has also told him to stay the hell away from me as I don't need to be brought into this and he has promised her that he will. Only time will tell if that's true. But I do have him blocked on everything and if he turns up at the house I will just call the police to get rid of him. The more Sandra told me about what had been going on behind my back, the more resolute I became about wanting nothing to do with him. I never want to see him again, if I can help it. So all in all Rob's life is a shit show, but as long as he stays away from me then I don't care. I've been spending a lot of time with my sister and her wife as well and my mom and stepdad which has been great. I've never really been close to my stepdad. But this has brought us a lot closer together which has been one huge positive out of all this. I'm not exactly happy right now, but I'll get there. There's still a lot of feelings that I need to unpack and it will take time to move on from this whole situation. I don't think I will be dating for a while. I need to really get over all this and don't want to dump this on anyone else right now. For all those asking how Kim is doing, she's doing great. Had a hospital appointment on Monday and her consultant said her eye is healing, in his words, marvelously. So that's a relief. Thank you to everyone that reached out to me. I hope there won't be any need to update this again, so this should be my final update. For telling my ex that it's not my fault that he's homeless. November 26, 2023. So I 28 have posted on relationship advice before about my now ex 29M. The post and update is in my profile, but basically my ex-fiancé wanted me to put his family before mine even at the cost of my sister's health. I ended up breaking up with him over it and he was forced to move in with his mom, who then found out that he had been in touch with his abusive dad who was twisting his view on how a relationship should work. Last I heard was that his mom was kicking him out as she would not have anyone in her house that was in contact with her ex, and that he had tried to go live with his dad, but his dad had refused. I was completely NC with him, so his mom was the one that had told me this. I'll call my ex Rob and ex-mum Sandra to make things easier. I hadn't heard from Rob in weeks, but yesterday he showed up at my house. I had the chain on my door so opened it with that still attached. No way would I let him in. He basically told me that he had nowhere to live. His mum isn't speaking to him and his dad won't put a roof over a grown man's head, his words not mine. He asked if I would take him back or at least let him live with me. No way in hell would I get back with him, and getting him out the first time only went easy because his mum stepped in to help. He had threatened to take me to court knowing that if he did it could take months to get him out, and then said he would only move if I gave him £10,000. I contacted his mum, who was furious about that, and she turned up with his brother and forced him out. I told him that there was zero possibility of him ever living with me again and that we were 100% over. He started shouting at me and calling me all sorts of names, so I threatened to call the police if he didn't leave and shut the door. I have cameras all over my house, so I caught everything he did and said on camera and saved it to a USB just in case. He then went crying to all our mutual friends and managed to get back to his mom. She called me and asked what happened. I told her, and she then informed me that she had put her house up for sale and was moving 300 miles away to be nearer her other son. She and Rob had a huge argument about this and she finally kicked him out. Since then he's been couch surfing, but with Christmas coming up, his friends aren't really happy with having him on their couches when they have kids and are meant to be enjoying the festive season. He's been kicked out of 3 friends' houses in 10 days. She told me I was right to refuse him, but I've since had other friends say that they feel sorry for them, and that I can just let him stay in my spare room until he's back on his feet. I then asked them to put him up, but they said they would but don't have room, and if they had a spare room like me then they would let him stay. My family and his are on my side, but I'm starting to doubt myself with what a couple of my friends have said. So Reddit, AITA? Edit. Just a quick edit as I'm going to bed. I've just spoken with the wife of one of Rob's friends and she's asked to meet me on my lunch break tomorrow. Apparently, Rob stayed with them for 2 nights before she kicked him out, and there's more going on than what I know of. She's going to tell me the full story tomorrow, but told me that I shouldn't let him anywhere near me and that he's staying in A and B, so he does at least have a roof over his head right now. I'll try to update after I've spoken to her. Update, November 27th, 2023. So I posted yesterday about my ex turning up at my house wanting me to let him move back in with me. I said no, but a couple of friends thought I should let him, and that messed with my head. Rob is my ex. A few people told me to change my lock, etc. I did that and changed my alarm code, as well as my stepdad got his friend to put up 4 cameras around my house. I'm also going to start shutting the gate so that no one can walk up to the house without ringing the bell there first. I put in an edit that I was going to meet with one of Rob's friends' wives for lunch today, and I have to say that it was informative for sure. I'll call her Nat, 30F, and her husband Zach, 29M. So I went to meet her on my lunch break at a cafe near my work. It's a place that a lot of my co-workers go to, and I know the staff there as well. A few Redditors thought that she might bring Rob with her, so I wanted it to be somewhere I feel comfortable and have backup if needed. Turns out that I didn't need to bother about that. When I got to the cafe, Nat was there on her own. I grabbed some lunch and a drink and sat with her. We went through the usual small talk before she started telling me what had been going on. Rob rang Zach on Thursday morning saying he had nowhere to go and could he stay with them for a few days. Zach spoke to Nat and they agreed he could stay in their guest room. Rob went to their house after work and they had a long talk where Rob told them he has a flat lined up, but can't move in till January. Zach and Nat agreed to let him live with them until January as long as he followed some basic rules and paid for his own food. The rules were things like, no bringing women back there, and if he went out drinking he had to be quiet when he got back so he didn't wake their daughter who's 6. He agreed to all this and paid for a Chinese for them all that night. The next day after work Rob went to meet his dad in the pub for a few pints. When Zach and Nat went to bed Rob still wasn't home. They were woken up at about 2 in the morning by Rob arguing with a woman. Apparently, Rob had met this woman in a bar, took her back to Zach and Nat's house, got his pleasure and then told her to get dressed and fuck off once he was done. She had gotten angry, which started an argument where Rob was saying some horrific shit to her. Nat took the woman downstairs and got her a taxi, while Zach stayed upstairs arguing with Rob. Once Nat had got rid of the woman she went back upstairs and tried to calm Zach and Rob down. At this point Rob decided to take out his frustrations on Nat, calling her a bitch and telling her to do something useful and make him a sandwich before bursting out laughing like he'd made the funniest joke ever. This made Zach lose it and pinned Rob to the wall by his throat. Side note, Rob isn't a fighter at all, whereas Zach was an amateur boxer in his youth and can handle himself well. Nat managed to get Zach to let him go and Rob was shoved in the guest room and told to sleep off the alcohol. It's a miracle that Nat's daughter didn't wake up during this. The next morning Nat got their daughter ready and went to her mom's after telling Zach to get Rob out of their house. Zach agreed, and after Nat left he woke Rob up and told him to pack his shit and leave. Rob tried to apologize and begged to stay, but Zach was having none of it and kicked him out. Going off the timing, I think he left there and came straight to my house. On Sunday Zach texted Rob to meet up so that they could speak, and they met up in a pub. Zach has been friends with Rob since they were 11 and has never seen him act like he has been doing, so he wanted to find out what was really going on. He managed to finally get the truth out of Rob. Basically, Rob has been in contact with his dad for a lot longer than he told us. By this point it's over 2 years. His dad is a raging misogynist that believes a woman's place is in the kitchen and bedroom. A man's place is to rule the house and be waited on hand and foot, as well as deciding who can and can't be in their lives. He's been dripping this poison into R's ear and it's really taken a hold of him. Zach told Nat that he just doesn't recognize Rob anymore. Rob wants to start living his life the way his father has told him he should. When Zach pointed out that Rob's dad is 62, living in a shitty one-bedroom flat, not had a real relationship since R's mom left him, has no friends, his family doesn't speak to him, and that he's the type of guy that when he walks into a pub people finish their pants so they can leave and get away from him, Rob was furious. He told Zach that his dad is just misunderstood. Zach responded that people understood his dad and that's why they stayed away from him. He's toxic. This pretty much ended their conversation and Rob left. Zach did find out that Rob does have a flat lined up for January, so that was true, and that he's found Airbnb he can stay until the flat is ready at a minimal cost. Zach and Nat have also decided to go NC with Rob as they don't need that toxicity around them, but especially not around their daughter. A few Redditors had said it sounded like Rob was on drugs, so I asked Nat what she thought, and she doesn't think so but can't be sure. She and Zach think that Rob is just so far under his dad's thumb now that he's completely changed as a person. He believes that everything his dad says is gospel. She did let me know that Rob has a burner IG account that he is using to check on my IG, and I immediately made my account private. He had said something about seeing me waste money on a stupid amount of Christmas presents when I couldn't even help him out with Zach on Sunday. I'd been to a Christmas market on Saturday afternoon and had posted pics on IG. All of this just made my resolve stronger that he will not be getting anywhere near my house again. It also made me realize that I don't have any feelings for him anymore other than frustration at how he's acting and some sadness at how far he's fallen from the man I once knew. I thought that hearing he had another woman in his bed would annoy me, but there was just nothing. I couldn't have cared less. I thanked Nat for the info and we agreed to keep in touch. We won't be as close as we were when I was with Rob, but it feels good to have someone who knows the entire situation and has seen Rob's behavior with his own eyes. There were also some Redditors that told me to ditch the friends that had told me to let him stay with me. Unfortunately, I can't ditch them completely as they're part of the friend group and that would just cause unnecessary drama, but I will be keeping my distance from them and only talking to them when part of the group. I'm currently with my sisters and we are going to watch a Christmas film to get us in the mood to decorate all our houses this weekend, so I will be on and off for the next few hours if anyone has any questions. Thanks for the votes and giving me some perspective. Reddit isn't all bad. For anyone that's still around. December 19th, 2023. Still have people reaching out to see if I'm okay. A few hated me just using initials, so R is Rob. I really hope that I wouldn't have to update again, but I've just had a call from one of Rob's friends and it looks like he's going to be spending Christmas in prison. Apparently, he went out on Saturday night with his dad and they got into an argument which turned physical. Rob isn't a fighter, however he is bigger and stronger than his dad, and it ended with his dad falling backwards and hitting his head off a wall, knocking him unconscious. The staff in the pub called the police and an ambulance, but Rob left before they got there. Rob's dad had to go to hospital, where he still is. I'm unsure of his exact injuries, but they're not life-threatening. He must also be awake as he is pressing charges against Rob, however they won't keep him in unless absolutely essential at this time of year. Rob was arrested on Sunday morning at the B&B he's been staying at and had to appear in magistrate's court on Monday. Due to him not having a fixed address right now and the fact that his dad is still in hospital, he has been remanded on a Section 18 with intent. Unless he can find a permanent address to go to, then he won't be getting out until his trial at Crown Court. I know his mom is already with his brothers over 250 miles away, so I don't think she will be able to help right now. Finding this out has actually given me a sense of peace right now. I've been trying to ignore it, but the chance of him turning up and spoiling Christmas has been at the back of my mind ever since he turned up at my house. I'm hoping he stays in over Christmas so that I can just relax. OOP on Section 18 in her area. OOP, Section 18 is an assault charge. A Section 18 with intent is the next level up and is classed as intending to and causing grievous bodily harm to someone. I've been told that if found guilty, then it's usually a multiple-year prison sentence. Another mini update, December 23, 2023. I went round to N and Z, hereby known as Nat and Zach, to drop off a present for their daughter, a bottle of Bell's for Zach and a bottle of Prosecco for Nat for Christmas, and had a cup of tea with them whilst they filled me in on what's going on. Rob will be in over Christmas, but will likely get out early January. His lawyer is trying to get the charges reduced from Section 18 with intent to a Section 20. I only found out today that a Section 18 with intent is one step down from attempted murder, and you're looking at double digits in prison if you get found guilty. Section 20 is a lot less severe and is usually a 2-year suspended sentence for first-time offenders, which he is. His lawyer has said that if he pleads guilty to Section 20, then CPS will lower the charges to get this one over and done with ASAP, as the courts are ridiculously backed up in the UK right now and prisons are full. Zach went to the B&B he was staying at and got Rob's stuff, which is now sitting in his garage as one last favor to Rob, Zach's words. He can't get in touch with me without my consent whilst he is locked away. The prison literally has to ring me and ask if it is okay that I get put on his approved call list, and only then is he allowed to ring me, which won't be happening. I've also spoken to his mom, who has basically washed her hand of him for the time being. She thinks that he needs to learn his lesson, and maybe spending Christmas in a cell will teach him how much he's lost the plot. She has spoken to him and said that he's now saying the right things, but only time will tell if he means them. He is talking about moving to be near his brother to get away from their dad, so maybe he has seen the light. His brother has refused to go onto his call list, so Rob can't contact him, so I don't know how that will work. As for his dad, he is still in hospital with a broken hip and has had to have surgery to fix it. The broken bone and head injury is why the charges are so high right now. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, knowing he can't ruin my Christmas. I'm just about to pack everything into the car and go and stay at my mom's until January 2nd, but thought I'd finish the year off letting everyone who's helped me and supported me through this know what's going on. Merry Christmas to everyone that celebrates it, and hope everyone is doing well. Final update, April 13th, 2024. Hi all, sorry it's been a while since my last update, but I wanted everything to be finished before I updated again. Rob spent Christmas on remand in prison. He didn't get out until the second week of January, and that was only because his mom agreed to let him stay with her again. He had his plea hearing the first week of February, where he pleaded guilty to a Section 20 assault. He then had to wait until last week to get his sentencing court date. I didn't know how much actually goes into sentencing. They had to get a victim impact statement, a pre-sentencing report from probation, statements from his mom and brother. His barrister even reached out to me to give a statement saying that we had broken up and I'd asked him to leave the house. He used our breakup as an extenuating circumstance, saying that because of the breakup of our relationship and him losing his home, that had seriously impacted his mental health. The statements from his mom and brother also confirmed that he had lived in an abusive home when he was young, so he claimed he had PTSD because of that. These were all read out at his sentencing. He was going to get 3 years, but the judge knocked time off for pleading guilty and for mitigating circumstances. That left him with a 16-month sentence that was suspended for 18 months. As part of the conditions for his release, he isn't allowed anywhere near his dad, he has to go to counseling for his supposed PTSD, and he isn't allowed to drink alcohol. He even has an ankle monitor that tests his sweat every half an hour for alcohol and will alert probation if he gets a positive result. Luckily for him, his boss has let him go and work at their main location in the city that's half an hour away from here, and probation was happy for him to live there as well. He moved into a flat there this week, so I don't have to worry about running into him. I haven't spoken to him at all, and I don't want to either. He has tried reaching out through a couple of friends, but they've respected my decision and told him to move on with his life. However, I did speak to his mom yesterday, and she said that she thinks he's depressed, but so far he's doing okay. She's the one I got all of this information from. It's a strange mix of emotion for me towards him, as I still care on some level, just not enough to keep him in my life. I know I need to keep him away from me, as I can never see him like I did at this time last year. It's crazy to think that it's only been a year since we got engaged. So much has happened. Other than those mixed emotions, I'm doing well. I've been hanging out with my sister and her wife a lot more, as well as catching up with friends. I'm still working at the same place, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. For the people asking about my sister, she's doing good. She had a setback last month, but she seems to be over that now and has just been approved to have some form of newish stem cell treatment at the UK's biggest eye hospital. Which is fab news. She tried to explain it to me, but it involved them taking her blood and putting it into her eye, which grossed me out, so I told her to stop. However, because she's my sister, she then sent me pictures of what they do, and Mum had to step in and tell her to stop. No matter how old we get, I don't think we will ever stop trying to annoy each other. So all in all, I think we're all moving on with life. Unless something big happens, then this should be my last post. I really want to thank everyone for their kind words and support. This has restored my faith that there are still good people out there. New update, June 30th, 2024, 2 months later. Hi all, I really hoped I wouldn't have to come back, but I've had several DMs on this account saying that a TikTok video is claiming that I'm back with my ex. I don't have TikTok, so I haven't seen it, but that's 100% not true. I haven't seen or spoken to him since my last update. As far as I'm aware, he's still living in the city half an hour away and is doing okay. I'm not really interested, to be honest. Rob's mom has accepted an offer on her house and has moved in with his brother until she can finalize the purchase of her house and find a flat she likes. Everyone else is doing well. My sister is the same and her eye is still healing. She's got some new glasses and says her vision is now nearly back to normal, so that's good. My sister and 7 other family and friends went out to Germany for England's first game, which was a lot of fun. Other than that, I've just been working and finding my new normal. Please don't listen to anything said about this on TikTok, YouTube, or anywhere else. I will not be getting back with Rob. That ship has sailed off the edge of a cliff. Relevant comments. Has Rob reached out to OOP? OOP. He was informed that I didn't want to speak to him and wanted to be left alone, and he respected that, thankfully. I just want us both to move on now.